Hi guys, it's me ChazzaHD and welcome to race day at Suzuka for the 2023 Japanese Grand Prix. Hope you guys are well after what was a pretty mediocre qualifying, unfortunately, yesterday. It wasn't anywhere near as good as I was hoping. It was definitely one of the most boring, to be honest, qualifying sessions of the season. Didn't have anywhere near the excitement we've had in some of the other ones, especially a week ago in Singapore, but the grid, if you look below who's in first on the grid, it looks, I would say, pretty interesting still. We've got, many interesting battles out there for certain very key positions. And I don't think necessarily this is going to be just a boring, forgettable race at Suzuka. So yeah, I am looking forward to today. The weather should be all good, pretty much like yesterday. Been a pretty hot weekend at Suzuka. So yeah, there shouldn't be any issue with the weather. And we'll see how the race goes. But of course, we will start with previewing the race itself. And we'll get into all of the data from yesterday. Obviously, the results of qualifying, the sector time data, and also the top speeds, just so you can see who was very quick down the straights yesterday and who to look out for in this race today in regards to that. We'll also get into the long run pace from Friday, just so you can see who with their race pace is looking good this weekend. And then we'll get into my own final race predictions, and of course I will go to depth with the teams as to how I think they'll do. Plus, we'll touch on what Pirelli have said is the predicted race strategy for this race. So plenty of stuff to go through before lights out at Suzuka. And, of course, I will be joined by my co-commentator today, Niblo. Might be joining me a bit earlier than normal on stream today. We'll have to see, but if not, then he'll definitely be here, half an hour before lights out. So, yeah, can't wait to get into this race. And, yeah, no matter what time zone you guys are in, whether it's extremely early in the morning or in the evening, if you're in North America, or it's the afternoon, hope you're all doing well. And no matter what is going on in your part of the world, hope you're all having as best a time as possible. Sorry, given whatever circumstances you are going through. But of course, we will start with getting into the build-up to this race. One final thing I want to touch on is there is a poll running at the top of the live chat. And I've asked you guys, by how much will Max Verstappen win the 2023 Japanese Grand Prix? Let me know in the chat, out of those four options, for how far ahead will he be of the next best car. And let me know what you think is most likely. The four options for how much he'll win the race by is 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute, and a full lap. Of course, when I say 1 minute and a full lap, I'm not being serious. I'm memeing really with that. But yeah, just let me know what you think happen in terms of the gap he'll win by. Surely Max Verstappen cannot be stopped today. But let's get into the data from yesterday. Get into building up to this race properly. Of course, hide the timer. So, let's get into the top 10 from qualifying and your top 10 starting grid. Max Verstappen, pole position for Red Bull. The only man to get into the 128, so 128.8. Brilliant pole position lap. And I know the Red Bull car was the best car in qualifying, but Max was on another level compared to everybody else. That was pretty clear to see through qualifying. And he's been on another level this weekend, period. Really since the first lap in practice one. And of course, we've covered all of the sessions this weekend. And he's been stunning the whole way through. Thoroughly deserved pole position. Oscar Piastri, second on the grid on the front row here at Suzuka, despite never racing here before. What a job by the young Australian, just about getting ahead of teammate Lando Norris, who will be lining up in third. Great result for McLaren. That's the first time McLaren have had both cars in the top three on the grid here at Suzuka since the 2000 Japanese Grand Prix, which of course was a famous race because that was the race where Michael Schumacher won his first world title for Ferrari. So yeah, that long, 23 years is the last time McLaren had two cars in the top three on the grid at Suzuka. And then Charles Leclerc ending up in fourth place. Maybe he could have done better in qualifying to maybe get third or maybe even snatch the front row. But I think legitimately McLaren are just quicker. And I don't think we can really complain about the performance of both Ferrari drivers. I think they're really victim to the pace of the car this weekend. But yeah, Leclerc fourth, Sergio Perez fifth, 3/4 of a second slower though compared to Max Verstappen. Embarrassing from Perez. Carlos Sainz sixth, quite far behind Leclerc in qualifying, nearly 3.5 of a second. Was miles away in the end. And then you've got Lewis Hamilton in seventh, George Russell eighth. Of course, Russell only did one lap in Q3 whilst everyone was in the pits refueling for the final run. So Russell was out of sequence and maybe could have done a better lap than he did. But yeah, he starts in eighth. Yuki Tsunoda will start in ninth, of course, at his home Grand Prix. Fernando Alonso will start 10th. And yeah, he also did what Russell did with running at a peculiar part of the session. And I don't think Fernando's lap time either was really the best he could have done. And I think actually his Q2 time was better than his time in Q3. So yeah, Alonso definitely could have gone stronger in Q3. But whether it would have been enough to move him higher than P10, I'm not sure. It would have, to be honest. Anyway, let's go into the rest of the field. Liam Lawson in 11th place in what could be his final F1 race for quite a while. Then you got Pierre Gasly in 12th, just 1,000th of a second slower than Lawson in qualifying. Alex Albon 13th. Williams disappointing in the end. I thought they were certainties, honestly, coming into the weekend or making it into Q3. Yeah, in the end, they were just too slow. They weren't miles off getting into the top 10, but yeah, I think definitely underwhelmed with their overall lap time. But I think there is more to come in the race from them. And then you've got Esteban Ocon 14th, Kevin Magnussen in 15th, and then Bottas 16th, Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin all the way down to 17th, out in Q1 again. Third race in a row. Nico Hulkenberg 18th, Zhou Guanyu 19th, and Logan Sargent 20th. Logan Sargent, by the way, it's been confirmed he'll be starting from the pit lane as Williams have completely redone his car out of Parc Ferme. Also, though, Williams could be set for a big penalty because, and I saw a tweet that Nib sent me a few minutes ago from Chris Medland. And the situation is that apparently the chassis, I think, used to replace what... actually, you know what? Let me just read out the tweet itself. That would make better sense. Yeah, once I read it, it should make sense, especially to people that really understand this regulation. So... yeah, this is what Chris Medland tweeted. There could be a big penalty coming for Williams as the FIA technical delegate says Williams had already prepped the spare chassis to more than just a survival cell. And, quote, this has to be considered as a third car available to the competitor. And, yeah, you're not allowed to prep or have a spare chassis that is more than just a survival cell before you actually use it in whatever way, I believe. I haven't really read up on that regulation exactly before, but yeah, that could be an in-race penalty, like a 10-second penalty, maybe a stop-go or something like that. I don't think it's going to be, a disqualification from the race or anything, but yeah, a bit of an embarrassing mistake there from the Williams team. But Logan Sargent probably going to finish last anyway, so it doesn't really matter what happens with him. But yeah, those are the results from qualifying. Let's get into the sector time data to really understand why it ended up the way it did. So in the first sector, which of course is so important here at Suzuka, Red Bull and McLaren were the clear kings in the S's. Red Bull 0.2 of a second quicker than McLaren, but Red Bull half a second quicker in just the first sector alone than Aston Martin, Ferrari, and Mercedes. That is quite incredible. We haven't seen a performance advantage in just one sector, from the Red Bull to the rest of, teams that normally you'd think should be competing with them, that has been this big for, feels like, quite a while. So, yeah, just incredible the extra pace the Red Bull had in that first sector. And, yeah, that's why, especially teams like Aston Martin, Ferrari, and Mercedes, that's why they can't get anywhere near Red Bull this weekend, because in that first sector, it is literally like comparing a front-running car to a midfield car. They're in completely different stratospheres at the end of the day. But yeah, Red Bull and McLaren, the two best teams through there. Aston Martin, I will say, their pace in Sector 1 was, in comparison to Ferrari and Mercedes, it was good, but still, 0.3 of a second slower than McLaren is way too much. Way too much. And I know the McLaren car in high-speed corners is good, but Aston Martin should not be losing that much time to McLaren. Then you've got Alpine after the top 5 teams, who were better in Sector 1 in qualifying than they looked through practice. So good to see they improved through there. AlphaTauri were okay. And then you had Haas. Williams, I have to say, were surprising in how slow they were. I wasn't expecting them to be massively quick, but I did not think they would be the second worst team in Sector 1. I thought they'd be probably where AlphaTauri are in this by team order. So, yeah, Williams definitely could have been stronger through the first sector than Alfa Romeo. At the very back, Alfa Romeo, of course, proved to have the absolute slowest car in qualifying. And then for the middle sector, Red Bull once again quickest. Of course, the middle sector, though, even though it is the longest sector here at Suzuka, it is not really, well, it's difficult, but it's not anywhere near as difficult and as important as the first sector. Because in the middle sector, you've got, the two Degner corners, the hairpin and the spoon curve. And then, in between those corners, you've got, obviously, on-throttle sections, a couple on-throttle sections, which are quite long. So, yeah, it's definitely not as hard for the cars and the drivers as it is in the first sector. And that's why it's so close between the top 3 teams in Sector 2. Half a tenth separating the top 3 teams in Red Bull's favour. Mercedes, yeah, too slow in Sector 2. They should not be 0.2 of a second slower than McLaren in this middle sector. It should be pretty much the same pace, between the two teams. So definitely Mercedes leaving time on the table there. AlphaTauri were positive with their speed in the middle sector. Williams were okay, maybe could have been a bit closer to the teams ahead of them, but got bad pace from them. Haas weren't great, Alpine weren't great, Aston Martin were pretty bad in this middle sector. Nearly half a second slower than Mercedes, and well, 7/10 of a second slower than Red Bull. Aston Martin's pace, absolutely horrendous. And the lap time that Fernando did in Q3 was slower than the lap time Sebastian Vettel did in Q3 at this same track last year. Only by a few hundredths of a second, but it just shows you that Aston Martin have just fallen off so much. And it is because of just really poor development. Then Alfa Romeo just behind them and still last. And then the final sector, which is the easiest sector by far, you're going to have to slow down once, which is for the final chicane. Red Bull pretty much 1/10 of a second quicker than McLaren and Ferrari through that sector. Mercedes, their pace absolutely fine. AlphaTauri's pace was actually quite good. Final sector, considering at high speed, you wouldn't expect them to be as quick through a sector like this, but recently we have seen quite big improvement from them, so good to see that continuing for the Italian team. And then you've got Alpine. Williams, I've got to say, I think were disappointing in this final sector, because the final sector at Suzuka should be their strongest sector for the track, and as far as I'm concerned, they should have been 1/10.5 at least quicker in this final sector. And if they were, Albon would have made Q3 and probably would have ended up maybe fighting Tsunoda for 9th place. So, yeah, disappointing from Williams. Kevin Magnussen 8th. Aston Martin once again pretty bad. And Alfa Romeo just behind them as well. So, yeah. In view to qualifying and what the pecking order was, clearly Red Bull had the best car. Max definitely was the best driver in qualifying, but yeah, Red Bull, there's no denying that they had the strongest package yesterday. McLaren were just about second best, and then Ferrari third, Mercedes fourth. I know AlphaTauri ended up ahead of Alonso, but it's difficult to say exactly how those two teams were relative to each other, because again, I don't think Alonso did the best final run in qualifying that he could have done. So, yeah, I'd probably say AlphaTauri better than Aston Martin in qualifying, but I don't think the gap was as big in reality as it ended up being, because Alonso didn't do a great final lap. So, yeah, Red Bull, McLaren, Ferrari, Mercedes, AlphaTauri, Aston Martin, and then the final 4 teams, I would say Alpine, Williams, Haas, and Alfa Romeo. That was the pecking order on qualifying. But before we get into what the what the pecking order for the race should be, and looking at race pace, let's just quickly touch on the top speeds in qualifying, so we can know who to look out for when it comes to overtaking in today's race. So these are the max top speeds by team from qualifying, and this speed trap data was taken from either the speed trap at the end of the pit straight or the speed trap right before 130R. Not sure exactly where the highest speed trap is located here at Suzuka. I think it is probably into turn 1, but yeah, just letting you know that it might be somewhere different. Yeah, Williams, no surprise, quickest team. Alpine, second best team, and maybe that's why they ended up with a slightly better result in qualifying than I was expecting, because maybe they took just a bit of wing off so they could be a bit quicker through Sector 2 and Sector 3 and not lose so much lap time. Maybe that's why in Friday practice they looked quite a bit slower. Haas, no surprise about their speed, neither Red Bull. Got to say though, McLaren, only 2.5 kilometers an hour slower. That is pretty good compared to Red Bull, and they are slightly faster in a straight line than Ferrari. And then you got AlphaTauri. Mercedes is top speed. I've got to say, a bit poor considering what it is normally compared to a team like McLaren. So, yeah, maybe just a bit too much wing put on Mercedes' cars. Maybe that'll benefit them today, but yeah, that probably would have cost them a slight bit of time in quali. And then, of course, Aston Martin and Alfa Romeo, no surprise there. Towards the bottom, their car's quite draggy and never really that quick down the straight. So, yeah, watch out for Williams and, of course, Haas, Red Bull. Normally, they have quick cars down the straights. Alpine as well, look out for them. Their top speed might be a bit stronger than we usually see from them. But before I get into my race predictions, guys, for this Japanese Grand Prix, let's get into the average lap times of the teams from practice 2 from the long runs done in practice 2. So let's get into that now. And here they are. So Red Bull, no surprise, they had by far the best pace. Max Verstappen did a 1:37.4 and did his run on the prototype tyre that Pirelli have brought only for practice this weekend as a test compound for 2024. That compound, though, the prototype or the test tyre, according to Pirelli, is akin to what is this weekend the medium compound tyre. So pretty much he did that time or that those laps on the medium compound tyre. Then you got Leclerc second. He was 0.6 off on average. He did his long run on the medium as well. Lando Norris behind Leclerc, and McLaren slower than Ferrari, but McLaren did their long run on the soft compound tyre, and the soft today is not going to be as good of a tyre for a stint as the medium. So tyre corrected to the better compound for today, which will be the medium. I think McLaren have got a better pace than Ferrari over a stint and definitely over a race distance. So yeah, don't think it looks as bad for McLaren as maybe it does here. Alfa Romeo, 4th best. They did their long run on the medium. Mercedes 5th. They did their long run on the soft compound tyre. So Mercedes can definitely go quicker than what we saw. But still, don't think they're on the same pace necessarily as McLaren. And even, you know, them versus Ferrari, I don't think it's going to be, I don't think Mercedes are going to be massively quicker than Ferrari, even if they're on similar-ish pace. So, yeah, Mercedes' pace genuinely just doesn't look that quick. Aston Martin, they did their long run on the soft, so we can expect a bit more pace from them. So, Mercedes' long run pace should be stronger than Alfa Romeo, definitely, for those two Mercedes-powered teams. Of course, one of them, the Mercedes Works team. And then you got AlphaTauri. They did their long run, I believe, on the soft compound tyre. I don't actually have that confirmed, that they used that compound. But looking at their lap times and the lap times that Tsunoda did, yeah, I'm pretty sure he did his long run on the soft because his lap times really dropped off towards the last 2 or 3 laps. And then you got Alpine. In 8th, Alpine did their long run on the medium. Yeah, their long run pace really not good. Williams, they did their long run on the soft, and so did Haas, I believe. Again, with Williams, AlphaTauri, and Haas, I don't have it confirmed, but that's what they did a long run on that particular compound. And the same goes for Valtteri Bottas and the Alfa Romeo. It is more so of a guess as to why I have said that, they did that long run on that compound, just judging by the consistency or lack of consistency of their lap times. So the pecking order in the race today in terms of who is quickest and who is slowest, it should be, in my view, once you do the tyre corrections, it should be Red Bull quickest, McLaren second, Ferrari third, Mercedes 4th, Aston Martin 5th, Probably Alfa Romeo 6th. I don't think qualifying, even though they weren't good, I think Alfa Romeo probably are capable of more than what they showed. Alfa Romeo 6th. AlphaTauri 7th. Williams 8th. Alpine 9th and Haas 10th. That's what I think the pecking order would be in terms of pace during today's Japanese Grand Prix. And now, let's get into my final top 10 race prediction. Let me know, guys, in the chat, what's your top 3 or top 5 prediction for the race today? Make sure to post it in the live chat. I'll get to your comments very soon. Here is my top 10 with the predicted gaps. The predicted gaps I've put, by the way, that is assuming there is no full safety car or red flag. So Max Verstappen, I think, will win the race only by 15 seconds. I don't think the Red Bull is going to massively pull away from the McLaren to the point where they're winning the race by half a minute or so. I don't think it's going to be quite that dominant for Verstappen. I think McLaren's pace is genuinely good. So, yeah, Verstappen still, though, will win comfortably. Piastri, I'm going in second, with Lando Norris third. Sergio Perez just about finishing in fourth, with Charles Leclerc fifth. Lewis Hamilton sixth. Carlos Sainz seventh. George Russell only just behind in 8th. Fernando Alonso 9th, and Yuki Tsunoda will take the final World Championship point for AlphaTauri. Yeah, that's my top 10 race prediction. Again, let me know in the chat your thoughts as to how you think things will play out. But quickly though, before we go any further into this build-up, just want to show you guys what my next 2 pieces of content are following this Japanese Grand Prix weekend. Tomorrow night, I'll be live at 8 p.m. UK time for the Japanese Grand Prix weekend review, where we'll go through some of the big talking points. And then next Sunday, I will be live again for another live stream. The topic is yet to be confirmed. But yeah, after the stream I do on Monday, the next stream I do will be next Sunday, the 1st of October, live at 3 p.m. UK time. So if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there. Let me just quickly get the timer back on screen, if I can. And there you go. Hour and 32 minutes to go until the race starts. So yeah, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, as we, do watch-alongs for practice, qualifying the race. We do previews, reviews, plenty of content. And if you want to keep bang up to date with everything going on in Formula 1, this is a great place to be. And for everyone watching right now, make sure to smash that like button. We are currently on 17 likes. So, yeah, we can definitely get up from that. Let's try and get up to 25 plus if we can, or even 30 likes plus in the next, 30 minutes. So that'd be good if we could do that. But before we get into the teams and I get into depth as to, how I think, or how their race will play out. Of course, I've already given you my full-on prediction. Let me just quickly get into the information today about tyres and race strategy, because Pirelli, of course, normally a few hours before the race, they make a post about race strategy and what they expect the quickest strategy to be for the race today. So, according to Pirelli, the quickest race strategy for the race is a 2-stop strategy, and according to them, the best 2-stop strategy is to start on the soft compound tyre and then pit between lap 13 and 19, go on to a set of hard tyres, hit again between lap 31 and 37, then finish the race on another set of the hard compound tyre. I don't think we'll get that many teams going for that strategy. I think the medium compound tyre will get quite a bit more work in in this race. But yeah, they did say after Friday practice that a 2-stop race was expected for today, due to, I think, high thermal degradation. So not surprised they predicted that. Let me just quickly let you know who has what particular sets of tyres. What do you call it? Max Verstappen has 3 new sets of mediums and 1 new set of the hard compound tyre. So with an extra set of mediums, maybe if they do a 2-stop with Max, they'll go medium, medium, hard, or medium, hard, medium, something like that. Perez has 2 new sets of mediums and 1 new set of hard. So do the 2 Ferraris. The 2 Mercedes drivers have 2 new sets of hard tyres and 1 new set of mediums. Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri the same. 2 new sets of hard tyres, 1 new set of mediums. And then Alonso has 2 new sets of mediums, or 2 new sets of hard, sorry, and 1 new set of mediums. So for Mercedes, McLaren, and Aston Martin with Alonso, I think most likely they're going to try and start on the medium and then go on to, 2 different sets, fresh sets, of course, of hard tyres. When, Red Bull might have the luxury to what do you call it, to go for a softer compound in a particular stint of the race. So, let's come away from that. Also, another man who made it into Q3, Yuki Tsunoda, he only has 1 new set of mediums and 1 new set of hard tyres. So, yes, Tsunoda may be a bit compromised with, new tyres available and what he's got remaining. Anyway, let's, let's get on in this stream and move on to the teams. And of course, guys, I will get to your comments in the chat. Don't worry about that. I'll be getting to you guys probably pretty soon. But let's go into Red Bull Racing. Max Verstappen is going to win the race today by a country mile. Even if he drops to 3rd or 4th on the first lap, he will still win the race by a country mile. His pace is way too strong for the rest of the field. Yeah, he'll be fine. For Sergio Perez, though, in 5th place, what is the best option strategically for Red Bull to get Perez, 1, onto the podium, and secondly, to try and get him into 2nd place and, of course, complete a Red Bull 1-2? Well, running probably longer into the race with his first set of tyres, I think, could be an advantage for him if he is still fighting the 2 Ferraris and maybe is behind both Ferraris on the grid. We'll have to see, of course, how the start goes. But if he is ahead of the 2 Ferraris and is in 4th place, then really, I think it would be better for Sergio Perez to go for the undercut compared to the 2 McLarens. At the start of the race, very important for Perez, because if he does have a poor start and is, having to pass both Ferraris on track, then his strategy will be compromised to a certain degree. So, we'll see how the start goes for him, but I would be inclined, if I was Red Bull, to, try and be aggressive with Perez and try and maybe pit a lap or 2 earlier than the McLarens during the race today. As the Sky F1 broadcast, by the way, started up a few minutes ago, and looking at the weather, it is pretty good. There is some clouds around, but it looks pretty good, and should be a completely dry race and probably a mostly sunny race as well. And of course, with it being quite hot this weekend for Suzuka, and with the sun probably being out for today's race, that is going to make tyre wear a bit more excessive than it would have been normally here at this track. And that does benefit not only Sergio Perez, but Red Bull, because Perez and the Red Bull car looked after their tyres very well. So, yeah, I think that could definitely benefit the team and maybe benefit Perez enough to finish on the podium. But it is not going to be easy to do. McLaren look quick, and both McLaren drivers are, I would say, at their absolute best at the minute. So, yeah, it's going to be a hard race for him. But my prediction is fourth. I think he will take a bit of time to get past Charles Leclerc and clear himself of the Ferraris. Plus, Ferrari are not necessarily going to be super slow today. Their pace is still going to be decent compared to, what pace Perez will have in that Red Bull. So, yeah. But yeah, Max Verstappen will win the race comfortably. And also, just to let you guys know, Red Bull can win the Constructors' title today. All they've got to do is pretty much win the race and hope that Mercedes don't finish on the podium. If that happens, they will officially be Constructors' champions for 2023. But the official permutation is they need to outscore Mercedes by 1 point in today's race, which they definitely will, and hope that Ferrari don't outscore Red Bull by, I think, is it 24 points? So, yeah, realistically, as long as Red Bull just win the race and hope Mercedes don't finish on the podium, which, yeah, Mercedes are not likely to be on the podium, given they're starting on the fourth row of the grid, it should be a very, very happy day today for the team from Milton Keynes. Anyway, let's move on to Mercedes-Benz, of course, second in the championship, but really fourth best team this weekend. Not on the same level as Red Bull, McLaren and Ferrari. Quite clearly slower than those teams, and they were really struggling with the car. Lewis Hamilton complaining quite a bit after qualifying, and rightfully so, about the rear end of the car. And he said, it was clearly a concept issue as to why they were struggling with the rear end yesterday. And when he means concept issue, what he's talking about is it's a fundamental problem with the car related to the build of the car, obviously, over the previous winter. So nothing they can do about it until next year, unfortunately. That's why Hamilton hasn't been looking maybe as strong as we normally would expect. Car just isn't handling that well. And overall, just doesn't have that great a pace. And yeah, today, their only hope of a decent result, considering where they're on the grid, is, Ferrari having really bad tyre wear, which could happen if we do get a high tyre degradation race. But if that doesn't happen, if Ferrari don't suffer excessively with bad tyre wear and their pace drop-off is not really poor, then I don't really see what they're heading for in this race that is going to be really that much better than where they're on the grid. My prediction for them is 6th and 8th, which is pretty bad for them. That would only be, 12 points for the team. And they would be outscored if my prediction for the top 10 was to come true. Ferrari would outscore them by 4 points. And of course, remember, the gap between Mercedes and Ferrari, the battle for second in the championship, the gap is only 24 points. So Mercedes cannot afford today to have a shocker and let Ferrari score 10 or more points than them, because things could get really hairy in these final few races of the year. Because obviously, the Mercedes car this season's been mostly poor. They're not happy as a team about, the car they produced and all of that. We already know about all of that. But if they were to come away with second place in the championship this year, I think they would be pretty happy with that, because it would show, at least from an operational standpoint, that they're still able to get the best out of whatever car they've got, through season. So, yeah, if they can get second, then that would be great for them. But not looking as, their stronghold on second, not looking anywhere near as strong did before. So yeah, it's going to be a tricky race for Mercedes. Maybe they'll be a bit better than I'm expecting, but yeah, they've never really looked, like they're, on the pace of Red Bull, McLaren or Ferrari this weekend. They've been quite comfortably the fourth best team, which is obviously a shame. But let's go on to the Scuderia Ferrari team, fourth and sixth on the grid, which is underwhelming. To be honest, I thought definitely they would have a better qualifying than that. I mean, going into qualifying, I thought that what do you call it? I think my prediction going into qualifying that Ferrari would be second and third, and I wouldn't say they were nowhere near getting that. I mean, Leclerc was only a few hundredths of a second away from being on the front row of the grid, but in the end, they were not as quick as McLaren. So yeah, disappointing qualifying, to be honest, given what we've seen from them in the last couple race weekends. Yeah, this is going to be a tricky race for them. I don't see a podium being possible. McLaren, I think, will be too quick. Plus Perez splitting the Ferraris, I think, will be also too quick in the Red Bull. So Ferrari's main fight today is going to be beating Mercedes. And if they can do that with both cars, then that would be a good result for the team coming out of this pretty tricky race weekend where they just haven't shown the type of pace we were expecting. They have got a new floor on the car. We haven't seen any improvement from that as of yet. So can't really sit here and say that, despite improving with their speed, they're still, not that quick. I just don't think it's quite worked for them so far. It has for the Ferrari team. But I think the key for today, in terms of the battle against Mercedes, is, in my view, I think they need to be aggressive Ferrari on strategy. Don't allow Mercedes to dictate the strategic battle between those two teams. And what I mean by that is don't give Mercedes the opportunity to do an undercut. Ferrari need to be proactive today, because if they are, and it is a two-stop race, then that gives themselves a better chance of, finishing, say, fifth and sixth, which would be probably realistically the best result they could get out of today's race. And if they do an undercut and pit a lap or two earlier than Mercedes do, that will give them an extra 2-3 seconds in the bag to protect themselves. And if the pace between the two teams is also similar, then that will help as well. So yeah, just need to make sure they're not leaving Mercedes the door open in making progress up the field. But yeah, I think they'll have an okay race. Fifth and seventh is, again, it's okay. Nothing special. Nothing, of course, like last week in Singapore. But yeah, it would be a good, I'm not sure damage limitation the right term, but it would be, a decent result from a tricky weekend, I guess, for them. At the end of the day, as I showed earlier, in the first sector, they've had, quite a lot of struggles. Their pace has really not been good. And yeah, they've had really tough time through that part of the track. And that's why they weren't able to be ahead of, McLaren on the grid, and why they couldn't get anywhere close to the Red Bull team. So yeah, fifth and seventh is what I'm going for them. Hopefully, it can be aggressive on their race strategy. We'll see, of course, what tyres they decide to start on. Next up, Aston Martin. Nib saying, nice to see you went more extreme on the poll than I suggested. What do you call it? Yeah. Aston Martin, Poor qualifying, really. I know coming into the weekend, I did not actually predict them to qualify in the top 10, but 10th and 17th for a team 4th in the championship is poor. That is, for me, that's objectively true. You can't be that bad, as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, Alonso didn't do the best lap in Q3, but even if he did do the absolute maximum lap, would he have been any better than P10? Not sure that he would have been. And yeah, just in general, Aston Martin are pretty slow. Their main fight today is with AlphaTauri. Of course, they've got one AlphaTauri ahead of them, of Yuki Tsunoda. And then just behind Alonso is Liam Lawson. So yeah, that's their main fight in the race today. And they, quite simply, are a midfield team. And yeah, as I said earlier, the lap time they did in what you call it, in Q3 was only by a few hundredths of a second. It was slower than the best time they did in Q3 last year with Sebastian Vettel, just showing how poor they've been as of late and how far they've fallen in the development race. And that's really why they've had such a poor second half of the season, because they just haven't developed this car anywhere near well enough to maintain what we saw in the first half of the year. Fernando Alonso, though, yeah, starts P10. I think he will beat Yuki Tsunoda. I think Aston Martin will have a better race pace than AlphaTauri, and will eventually get past Tsunoda somehow, whether it's on track or in the pits. But he won't be able to fight anyone in the top 8. Absolutely no chance. Aston Martin just don't have the pace to be able to do that. Lance Stroll starting 17th. I don't think Stroll really has a chance of points. His pace is pretty poor. And yeah, he is performing literally as bad as I think someone of his talent level could in that car. So yeah, don't think Stroll gets anywhere near really point from this race. Maybe Aston Martin will start Stroll on the soft compound tyre, try and make some serious progress up the field. But even if they do that, I don't think it's really going to pay off for them in a big way. Yeah. 9th place, I'm going for Aston Martin. And the final front-running team we'll go on to is McLaren. And McLaren, yeah, what a qualifying session. 2nd and 3rd on the grid. The first time they've been 2nd and 3rd on the grid since Silverstone, of course, which was, 2.5 months ago, I think. And yeah, as I said earlier, the first time they've had 2 cars in the top 3 on the grid since, let me raise that. First time they've had 2 cars in the top 3 on the grid at Suzuka since the year 2000, where, of course, Michael Schumacher in that race won his first world title for Ferrari. 23 years. That is how good yesterday was, that it is the first time in 23 years since they have done that. And full credit to this man on screen, Oscar Piastri. One of the laps of the day yesterday, and what an effort. And as I said after qualifying finished, every race weekend it feels like he's surprising us and getting us even more excited with each performance he puts in. And yeah, he definitely is, I think, showing at the minute that he is one of the top few drivers in Formula One. There is no doubt about it. He is already, by the mid part or just after the mid part of 2023, his debut season, he's already separated himself from drivers like Perez, even Carlos Sainz, I think. Never mind your Ocons, Gasly's, drivers like that. I think Piastri definitely better than those drivers. And of course, only his debut season, he should be even better next year. Cannot wait to see what he does next year. But a phenomenal job by Oscar. Lando Norris 3rd on the grid. His final lap wasn't the best, but still absolutely fine. And as long as McLaren finish second and third, then I don't think it matters really who finishes second out of the two drivers. They need to secure the points, because if they finish second and third, that would be 33 points. They are currently 78 points behind Aston Martin in the championship. And if Aston Martin were to score only 2 points in the race today, which I have predicted, then that would be a gain of 31 points. And they would be then only 47 points behind going into the final 6 races. So if they can finish second and third in this race today, then that gives them a properly good chance of finishing 4th in the championship, which would be a good season for McLaren, given where, of course, they started 2023. But yeah, I think they'll finish in second and third. The only thing is, they need to make sure in the first stint of the race, and not even necessarily just in the first stint, but you know, if Sergio Perez is stuck behind Leclerc or Leclerc and Sainz, whilst that is happening, McLaren have got to make sure to build the gap to the cars behind, so that once Perez eventually, you would expect, gets past either one of or both Ferrari cars, they have enough of a buffer to protect themselves and try and secure that, double podium. So that is the key, I think, in the first half of the race, especially if they are going to finish in second and third. But yeah, both drivers on fire, McLaren on fire, great to see. And as well, one final thing I would like to touch on is, of course, they brought a big upgrade last week at Singapore. And I still don't think that this upgrade has worked as much as probably they were hoping, but it definitely has given them extra pace. Just not as much extra pace as, it really should have. So, yeah. Just wanted to touch on that as to understanding why McLaren were the second best team yesterday and why they are overall the second best team end, because definitely expecting that through qualifying yesterday. And I don't think really that many people were predicting McLaren to be second and third on the grid for the Japanese Grand Prix 2023 in days leading up to this race. But we've got just over 1 hour to go until the race gets underway. By the way, Nib, if you want, in like, I don't know, 10 minutes or so, if you want to, of course, jump in the Discord in the VC, then I'll bring you on, mate. If you want to come on a bit earlier, then just let me know in the chat, and I'll bring you on in like 10 minutes or so. But let me just whiz through the rest of the teams quick. Alpine, their result was okay in the end, considering how bad they were looking in practice, but 12th and 14th, of course, is not good for Alpine. I don't think they'll be that far away from finishing in the points. I think they'll give AlphaTauri definitely a good race today, but yeah, I don't see Alpine in the points. I think they'll just miss out by a few seconds. But yeah, Alpine doing well to get 12th and 14th on the grid, but I think where they are on the grid, to be honest, is probably where they'll finish the race, because I don't think they're going to have an extra boost of pace in the race. And as we saw with the data earlier from Friday, their long run pace was not that good compared to a lot of the other midfield teams like Williams, AlphaTauri, Alfa Romeo even. So yeah, Williams definitely, I think, should have been quicker in qualifying, and I think Albon did the best he could in the Williams, but Williams just didn't prove to have, unfortunately, a good enough car to get into Q3, which is sad, but that's the way it is. I will say, though, with Albon, that him 13th on the grid, I do think he's a dark horse, possibly, and has a definite outside chance of finishing in the top 10. You have to remember the Williams, of course, is very quick down the straights, the quickest team down the straights this weekend. and does tend to have, compared to a lot of their midfield rivals, pretty decent race pace as well. So yeah, I don't think you know, them making progress, I don't think is anywhere near being impossible for them. So yeah, wouldn't be surprised at all if Albon made up a position or two. But ultimately, I think he will miss out because AlphaTauri are just a bit too quick. And yeah, Logan Sargent, of course, starting from the pit lane. Haas F1, as usual, they've got the slowest car on on heavy fuel. And yeah, they weren't that quick in qualifying yesterday either. 15th and 18th. That's got to be one of, if not their worst qualifying session of the season so far. Yeah, pretty poor, and they will be definitely nowhere near the points in the end. Alfa Romeo had a very poor session. Their race pace, though, does look good, but from where they're starting, 16th and 19th, they haven't really got any chance of finishing in the points because it's just too much progress to make. You know, passing the two Alpines, got Albon and the Williams, the AlphaTauris, plus you've got Lance Stroll and the Aston Martin around them, and the Aston Martin should be pretty quick itself when it comes to race pace. So yeah, unfortunately, not able to capitalize on that good long run pace because of really poor starting positions. Yeah, Alfa Romeo will not end up with a great result. And then finally, we've got AlphaTauri. And yeah, Yuki Tsunoda, 9th on the grid at his home Grand Prix. Brilliant job by the Japanese star, who, of course, it was officially confirmed yesterday that he will be partnering Daniel Ricciardo at AlphaTauri for 2024. Yeah, brilliant result. Top drive from Tsunoda. One of the drives of the day. And AlphaTauri, once again, after their upgrade last week in Singapore, looking quite a bit quicker, which is good to see. And I think they will take at least a point from this race, which would put them, if they were to take a point from this race, it would put them, 4 points behind Alfa Romeo, and definitely would make it viable that Alfa Romeo and maybe even Haas can be caught in the Constructors' Championship. If AlphaTauri can finish higher than last, that would be a really good save this season, considering how the year has gone, how obviously bad they looked at the start of 2023. So, yeah, Tsunoda, I think, will finish in 10th place. Liam Lawson probably will finish around 11th to 13th, something like that. Hopefully, Lawson has a good race, his final race of the season, and possibly his final race for quite a while in Formula 1. You never know. This could be his final race ever in Formula 1. Just never know what could happen in motorsport in terms of where you end up, in terms of what series, what teams. You just never know at times. So, yeah, we'll see what happens for Lawson. But those guys are all of the teams, and we have got an hour to go until qualifying, until the race starts at Suzuka. So, yeah, what I'm going to do now is get into your comments in the chat. I will, though, just have a, what do you call it? Just a scroll of Twitter to see if there's any breaking news I can bring you guys ahead of today's race. Is looking at the weather, by the way, at Suzuka, the clouds now disappearing and it is really clearing up. So this is going to be a hot race. The track temperature yesterday in qualifying, I think, was 37 degrees Celsius. So yeah, it's not going to be easy whatsoever on the tyres. Necessarily the cars as well. Orbis says, anyone know what happened to Red Bull in Singapore from the upshift talk. It seemed like bad modes to the car software. No, it wasn't. It wasn't a software issue with the car. It was a setup issue with the balance of the car. They just got it wrong with the the position of the floor in terms of the ride height. They just got it wrong, and yeah, the rear end of the car was all over the place, and it just ended up being a bad weekend for them. So yeah, that's why they ended up being so slow in the end. But it was not because of the technical directive, which I know a couple idiots on F1 Twitter are trying to still push that, as far as I'm concerned, conspiracy theory that Red Bull was slow in Singapore because of the technical directive about movable parts. Absolutely not the case. And I even suspected at the time that I didn't think it would be because of the technical directive. But yeah, it was just a setup problem, and they just got it horribly wrong and proved that they are imperfect like the rest of us humans. But yeah. Edward F says Max will slowly increase his lead as the race goes on. True. David, are you streaming the race itself or just live timings? It'll just be basically live timings. Of course, we can't show the race live because we'd be cooked down in about 2 seconds. That's being generous. So yeah, we're not actually going to show footage of the race. But I will have, graphics to show the positions, have a lap counter, all of that stuff. So if you can't watch the race, then I will keep you absolutely up to date. And me and Nib, the commentator coming saying, we'll keep you absolutely up to date with what happens during the race itself. And visually, you'll be able to keep up to date with what is going on as well. Nota says, hello, Chaz. I've been busy last few weeks, but glad to catch your stream. 1 a.m. race start for me. Hello to you. Good to see you, mate. Yeah. It is, what do you call it? Peculiar, obviously, race start time for us Europeans. I know, obviously, it does benefit others. Of course, in Asia, Oceania, North America to a degree. But, yeah. It can be a bit rough on us Europeans, but of course we if people out there who have to wake up really early or stay up really late for a lot of the races on the calendar, if they have to suffer that, then we would have to suffer this. Right, before I come back into the chat, just gonna look on Twitter to see if there's any news. As well, currently we are on 39 likes. Make sure, guys, if you haven't already, to smash a like button. Let's try and get up to 50 likes if we can in the next, say, half an hour. So we've got 56 minutes to go now until the race starts. So yeah, try and get up to 50 likes if we can. And everyone watching right now, if you have not voted in the poll, make sure to do so. I've asked you guys, by how much will Max Verstappen win the race? Let me know out of the 4 options I've given, by how much will he win today. Right, so Ib should be with us on stream in about 10 minutes time. No, not too long. So yeah, there's no other news on Twitter. So let's get into some more of your comments. Bill says, fan, not fanatic, an addiction I pass on. I leave that to others who enjoy outdoing their pals with their memory. Next race is what matters. Someone wins. Yay, sad. Max lost in Singapore. On. Michael Arvin, or Arvin Racing, better known as Michael Arvin, gave their prediction for the race today. Max to win, according to them, and then Oscar, Lando, Perez, Carlos, Hamilton, Russ, Charles, Alonso, Yuki. So, yeah, not really that much different from mine, except for the positions of the Ferrari and Mercedes drivers. Vettel Hamilton says, I predict Verstappen, Piastri, Norris, top 3. And Bill also earlier saying Piastri is a class act and a future world champion. Somebody else saying, yeah, Vettel Hamilton saying Piastri is going to win multiple championships. I can guarantee that. I'm not sure we can, start stating that, at this point because it's still too early to say that. But yeah. If someone wants to say that he's a future world champion, Piastri, then I wouldn't necessarily be disagreeing with that. But yeah, multiple championships might be a bit over the top. But yeah, make sure to keep your comments coming, guys, in the live chat. As let me see if there's any Twitter that I may have not seen. I have seen the official confirmation of Williams is, breaking the park firmly, and that's why Logan Sargent will start from the pit lane. Let's see if there's anything else. Don't think there is, to be honest. Sorry. He's like amusing. And right, so breaking news, and this was actually 13 minutes ago from Chris Medland. This was tweeted. Logan Sargent will be racing with a 10-second time penalty, as well as the pit lane start. He will take that 10-second time penalty, Logan, at his first pit stop. And then Chris goes on to say, in the decision, the stewards, quote, recommend that this issue gets discussed again in the Sporting Advisory Committee. And Chris then goes on to tweet, I'm told that it was already on the agenda from sporting directors who feel it's not right that mechanics can't just crack on after a big crash in qualifying. So yeah, that probably will be adjusted, that regulation. I do agree. I think, if there's a big crash and it's clear that, work needs to be done immediately to get the car back into its normal state, why can't they just get to work sooner on that? I think it's a bit stupid, to be honest. But those are the rules. And yeah, Logan Sargent will take a 10-second penalty at his first pit stop. I do wonder whether Williams might go for a really early pit stop with Sargent just to get that out of the way so he can get on with his race. We'll have to see. Bristol Racing, good to see you, mate, says it's going to be a Max walkover. Good morning to Rowan. Brett says, what do you call it? Brett says Sargent is freaking doomed for the race, definitely, and possibly for his F1 career because, yeah, yesterday was not a great showing. David Taylor, does this channel have graphics? Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, during the race, of course, we'll have graphics on screen. A lap counter, a tower order, just to show you guys, who's in what position. Of course, I'll have a position, and then what's it? Not a graphic, but a load of text to show who is on what tire compound as well. So that'll all be on screen for you during the race if you've not been here before. As just currently looking at the F1 broadcast, cars now coming out onto circuit. Sun now blazing. Crystal Racing says Sargent's pen is like McLaren Honda's 2015, where Button and Alonso started in the pits and were handed 15-second penalties for power unit changes. Did that actually happen? I can't remember if it did or not. I remember they had absolutely mammoth penalties, like 70 or 80 place grid penalties. It was, craziness, really. Yeah, I don't remember actual time penalties going along with it, but might be wrong. David Taylor saying, viewing from Poland. Hopefully you're all good. Yeah, I think in a moment I'm going to bring Nib on. Never been here before. My co-commentator that we have on most races. Crystal Racing saying, the sooner Stroll and Sargent leave, the better. Yeah, I would agree with that, but maybe not as in as harsh a tone as that. But yeah, right. So Nib is ready. So let's bring him on. Let's just get some couple things ready, and we call it open Discord and get him on. So, right.
Hello.
There you are. How are you?
Doing fantastic. What about yourself?
Yep. But is what I am. Yeah, I've been. I didn't have that much sleep after qualifying yesterday. I've been awake since. Until I wake up yesterday, I think 3:30 in the afternoon. So, yeah, I'm been awake like 13, 14 hours.
Well,
So,
let's just say I woke up halfway during quali yesterday, which funny enough was 3:30 p.m. yesterday for me, and I've not been asleep, so I'm like wide awake, like I am cooking. So yeah.
and yeah, with this weekend, just so people know, how much of the weekend have you watched? Is it just that half of qualifying?
No. I watched the half quali, and then I watched FP1 and FP2, I think. So
Right.
I've actually watched quite a bit.
Yeah, we'll just obviously, as normal, we'll go through some of the talking points from quality. It wasn't a great qualifying session. It was quite boring, to be honest. We never really got any proper excitement, or surprises during the session. So yeah, it was a pretty mediocre session. But obviously we'll get on to Max Verstappen in a moment. But what about Oscar Piastri, front row off the grid at Suzuka? I don't think anyone thought that was going to happen, even just a day or so before qualifying. Just an incredible lap, and what he's doing at the minute, Piastri, considering his lack of experience around a lot of the tracks we've been racing at, is just so good. It's so special, and yeah, like I said a few minutes ago, he's just proving us proving us wrong in very much in a good way. And even though I I've been very impressed by him, and I do have high hopes for him. It's just so exciting to see a new, super talented young driver on the grid that is, yeah, absolutely one of the top few drivers out there. Yeah, what did you think of Piastri's performance yesterday?
Well, yeah, rewinding all the way back to the start of the weekend. I mean, on Friday practice, he was about half a second off Lando on the quali sims, and I mean, well, he's found some good performance overnight on Saturday morning, Friday night to find that paced out qualify Lando. I mean, I remember during the week, was it Thursday or even Friday? I messaged you saying that in 2 seasons he'll be the number one driver at McLaren. And I said that because I think Lando will be at Red Bull. Because I mean, Christ, the Red Bull and like Verstappen and Marco and Horner want to tease it anymore. Like it's ridiculous. But I mean, I heard you before saying that multiple time world champion might be pushing it. It's bloody not, mate. I mean, when have we had a rookie that's just been this mature and calm about things? It was something that he displayed in F2. He was always very mature and calm with everything he did off track and on track. And I mean, it just makes for a fantastic racing driver. And well, I mean, heck, he's going to be lining up to be a very, very special driver in the years to come.
Absolutely. I'm thinking of in terms of debut seasons. How impressive would you say? I mean, if we look in the last like 20 years, we've had the other very impressive debut seasons. Of course, you've had Verstappen, Hamilton, um, Norris to a degree, but I think Lando was much better the year and the 2 years after.
I mean, Leclerc's
Leclerc,
debut season was pretty ridiculous in that
yeah.
Sauber.
So they compared to those drivers that we've mentioned, yeah, how impressive a debut year would it be towards the back of those or in the middle? I'd probably say in the middle, to be honest.
Oh, that's funny. I was actually going to say towards the back because I mean, he's had a pretty competitive car certainly since about Silverstone or so.
Mm,
Obviously he's had some good races, but it's mainly just I think he struggled a little bit with managing the tires, and his race performances perhaps haven't been as good as say his one lap race, which is completely the opposite as in F2. He had a really great understanding of the tires in that formula and was never actually the quickest over one lap. But yeah, I mean, better than Norris's debut season, better than Russell's debut season. I mean, better than I'd say Leclerc had a better rookie season than him so far. But I mean, heck, if he finishes P2 here, that could change. I mean, heck, if something unsuspected happens here in the Verstappen, heck, he could win the Grand Prix. But
yeah.
um, yeah, it's just so good, and I mean, there should be some more good tracks coming up for McLaren.
Hold on. You just
No, I'm here. I'm here.
all
Yeah,
right.
yeah. I adjusted and I'd stopped. Yep.
All
Sorry.
right. I thought you just cut off.
No,
Yeah,
no.
with Piastri, I think the reason I'd rank it I'd probably say ahead of Leclerc's debut year. I know it was really good from Leclerc, but I think the reason I'd put Piastri's ahead is because Oscar's reference this year is, obviously every driver's main reference is their teammate, and Oscar's had Lando Norris and Leclerc had Marcus Ericsson, who in 2018 was decent, but definitely nowhere near the level of Norris. And if you look actually, since Silverstone, Norris has mostly been better, but Piastri has started to get more, say, closer to the pace of Norris a lot more of the time. And in a couple recent races has actually out-qualified Lando. Monza, for example, Spa as well. So it is becoming more regular that Oscar is able to outqualify Lando. Because in the first 10 races or so, I think Oscar only outqualified Lando, I think, once. First 10 races or 11 races. Yeah, it's starting to become more of a theme that he's now starting to trade blows with Lando. But yeah, incredibly exciting what we're seeing from him, and hopefully we'll see have a good race today. And of course, even though he was top 3 in the sprint race at Spa, if he does finish in the on the podium today, that would be, of course, his first podium in Formula One. He came very close, of course, at Silverstone and in Hungary, where in Hungary he was running for 20 laps or so in second place. So hopefully he does end up on the podium. And yeah, with McLaren, they definitely should be. Most of the time, between now and the end of the year, they should be the second best team, to be honest, which is great to see them in a similarly strong position to where they were a couple months ago. Quickly touching on, obviously, Max Verstappen. He has absolutely dominated this weekend. Only the McLarens have been able to get near him in practice, really. But yeah, unbelievable. Pole position lap, only man in the 1 minute 28, so 1:28.8. How much of his pace yesterday would you say was him just being that much better than the rest, or do you think it was all the Red Bull car?
Well, look at his teammate. I mean, Sergio Perez not this season, but in previous seasons, been much closer to Verstappen in qualifying. But to put 7/10 on your teammate's head over one lap, it's just the perfect combination of car and driver. I mean, and it's been the same thing for the last nearly 3 years now. The last 3 seasons, I should say, with Verstappen. It's just ridiculous that the level he's driving at weekend after weekend. And I mean, we knew what was going to happen this weekend. After what happened at Singapore, I mean, we saw we saw like how he was reacting and joking around after qualifying and the race. This man meant business here at Suzuka, and boy did he deliver. I mean, that lap through the S is just ridiculous. The car just doesn't fight him at all. Can put the car exactly where he wants it. It looks like he's got a bloody blown diffuser. It's just absurd how good that Red Bull car is. And I mean, that floor update that they brought to Singapore is really, really working well around here. I mean, I sent you some of the data through turn 6, where I think Verstappen was sort of 12 kilometers an hour faster than Perez with the new floor compared to Perez, and Perez I think gained 8 kilometers with the new floor on. So, I mean, just they never miss with the updates to Red Bull. Of course, they had those issues in Singapore, which have been well detailed. I mean, that article by Mark Hughes, I think it was, on the race. I mean, just what was going on, the setup issue, and also just the track surface just didn't really suit the Red Bull. And they had a similar issue through Air Rouge and Raidillon in Spa, where they actually had to lift off and they couldn't go full throttle at the top of Raidillon. So yeah, it was just an issue with the bumpiness of the Singapore circuit, and just a setup issue that they really forced themselves into after making all those radical changes after FP3, because Max was not too pleased with the car.
Yeah, absolutely. And thankfully, the myth of being the technical directive causing it has been very quickly dispelled, even though there are still a couple idiots out there on Twitter that are still trying to push that narrative. What do you call it? Yeah, the Red Bull, it was so reminiscent of the Vettel days, wasn't it? Because whenever Vettel came here in the Red Bull, you just knew Vettel was going to get on pole position, because he was also so at one with the car.
Weber was pretty close a couple of times, mate.
Yeah, I think there was one year where he was close. I can't remember the other years, to be honest.
It was the rained out quality when they come back on this Sunday. I think he was only Uh, it was within a tenth
Oh,
of
right.
Seb.
Yeah. But yeah, back then, again, it was the same as it is now. Red Bull just clearly a step ahead. And as I got into earlier, I mean, McLaren's first sector time compared to Red Bull was decent, pretty good, maybe some could say. But yeah, Red Bull were half a second quicker than Ferrari and Mercedes in sector one alone. That is unbelievable extra pace to have. And yeah, the new floor clearly shown its worth here. Also, as you touched on, their upgrades this season, the very few of them they've brought have worked so well. They brought obviously that new, I think was it side pod inlet, which didn't actually count as an upgrade. That improved their car a few races ago. So yeah, that's working out great for them, and it now appears that they'll be done now with upgrades for I think the rest of the year, and so are I think Ferrari. I think they've confirmed that there is no more parts coming from them for the rest of 2023. One more thing though I wanted to touch on, which is kind of to do with Piastri. So obviously Logan Sargent yesterday crashed in qualifying. He's a rookie, and everyone, not everyone, most people are calling for him dropped. Liam Lawson obviously has had a great few races as a debutant. And I've seen a debate on Twitter and social media in general as to what we should expect from a rookie driver. Do you think rookie drivers should be given that free of a rein like Sargent has been given by some to not be that quick a lot of the time and even to have some accidents here and there? Or do you think Piastri and Lawson have proven that that you have to still be on good pace most of the time, like most drivers do, even some of the most experienced ones? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, it's a tricky one because he's having a comparable season to what Yuki Tsunoda did in his first season at AlphaTauri, but he's even further off his teammate than what Tsunoda was Gasly in that season. So like even then, it's not really comparable. But I mean, of course, you're allowed to make the odd mistake. You got to find the limits in these cars, and it's hard to do. Of course, the Williams isn't the greatest car in the world. Um, but yeah, I think it's gotten to a stage now where he's just so far off Albon every single weekend, and now he's crashing more consistently. It's I there's just better drivers out there to put in that Williams for next season. I think it's just that simple. But I mean, F1 teams are so negative in their thinking, and they just want security with their seats. They want stability, which I don't get. If you want a faster driver in your car, go get the faster driver. Um, we're seeing it with Alfa Romeo. No ambition, putting not putting Teo Porcher in the car for next season. I mean, come on, the dude's shown through F3 and F2. Yes, it's his third season in F2, but if you've been watching F2 over the last couple of years, you know how good the dude is. He's still only 20. I mean, he should be in that car next season, but he's not because they prefer all this stability when it really gets you nowhere. And I think James Vowles is a pretty ruthless guy. So, and I think if Sargent continues this, it's going to force his hand, really. There'd been some articles coming out during the week that Toto Wolff had basically begged James Vowles and shown him his simulator data um, to try and get Mick Schumacher that Williams seat, but then Vowles decided that his simulation data wasn't good enough. Um, so I mean, I don't understand it personally. People who think Mick Schumacher should be in that Williams. I mean, how many crashes did he have last season?
True.
Quite a lot. But I mean, he probably had more crashes than Sargent did. Um, Mick was great in F2 and all that, but I mean, it just hasn't translated to F1, unfortunately. I mean, he's still having a great time doing what he likes. He's always out surfing, so um, it doesn't look like Red Bull are going to let Lawson go to Williams either. They want to keep him locked in, and it looks like they will put him in that Alpha Tauri car in 2025. But uh, it's just silly, isn't it? Like Lawson should be on the grid next season, man.
Yeah, absolutely. He's had how many races now? Three, three and a
Three.
half race weekends, and yeah, it's been really good. And I know people might say, "Oh, but Nick De Vries had a really good just single race for Williams." But I think the advantage for with Lawson is obviously the more races he's done, the more we get to know about how good he is. And obviously, Monza nearly got a point. Singapore qualified and finished in the top 10, and here he's 11th on the grid. So we can already see, even though he's come in mid part of the season out of nowhere, that he's very quickly adapted and is pretty much at the pace at minimum that I think Red Bull would like him to be at. So yeah, he should be taking a seat at AlphaTauri. I know why they've gone for Sonoda and Ricardo. Ricardo, the more marketable person. I get it, but from a performance standpoint, it should be Sonoda and Lawson. But yeah, let's hope Lawson does, get onto the grid for 2025. But in terms of Logan Sargent, who knows what's going to happen with him? Because if Mick Schumacher doesn't replace him, then in terms of the options after that, I'm not sure exactly who is likely to replace him. I mean, you look in F2, other than, Teo Portier, and of course Portier, part of the Sauber Academy, I don't think there's anyone who is realistically going to be available that is able to be signed. I mean, I know you've got Frederick Vesti, who's a Mercedes Academy driver, but I don't think he's going to be a Formula One driver. Even though he's done well this year, and he was for a while leading the championship, I don't think Vesti's I don't think he's thought of by the Formula One teams as a Formula One driver. He is though, Vesti, I think, doing a practice session in Mexico for Mercedes, so that'll be interesting to see. But yeah,
And I mean,
you got Vesti,
Behrman
but
is with Ferrari.
yeah,
Like, is Martin still with Renault?
yeah,
Like, Iwasa's obviously with Red Bull. There's no one really available. I mean, I think the best that you could go for, honestly, is probably Behrman. I mean, Behrman's had some ridiculous results this season.
yeah, but
yeah, I mean, he's at Ferrari. It's not going to happen, is it?
no, I think Ferrari have got a plan definitely in place for him. Probably to be on the grid to say 2025, probably at Haas if if Kevin Magnussen has another say poor season. I wouldn't be surprised if Behrman ends up at Haas. If they're going to replace Sargent, they're going to need to do a loan deal with somebody, whether it's Red Bull, Alpine, Ferrari, Mercedes, whoever, because there's no clear options. I mean, Williams, we have to remember, they do have a driver academy of their own, but they don't really have anyone in their academy that is Formula One quality, or either Formula One ready. So, yeah. If I was to predict now, will Sargent be on the grid next season? I think he will, but I don't think absolutely he deserves to be. Anyway, before we get into some comments from you guys in the chat, let me just post a link of the stream out a couple further times. Yeah, and quickly, before we go any further, as we're just under half an hour away now from the start of the race. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Bottom right of the screen, do it right there. And for everyone watching right now, make sure to smash that like button. But I'm joining us here to watch along the Japanese GP. To be honest, looking at qualifying, I don't think there's really anything else to talk about. Again, it wasn't that exciting of a qualifying session, and there wasn't that many talking points coming out of the session, unfortunately. I mean, the only surprise really that we got was Tsunoda making the top 10 and finishing up in 9th place. But other than that, it ended kind of how most people, I guess, expected going into the session after the practice sessions we had. So, yeah, I'll get to the comments in a moment. The Japanese GP. Trying to think. One thing, actually, we can touch on quickly. I don't know if you've seen this news. Maybe you sent it me on Twitter and I've just forgot that you did. Did you see the whole thing about the F1 teams asking the stewards about what happened in Singapore with the penalty stuff? What did you think of that? It was really just shit from the stewards. How basically the stewards have admitted after that they got it wrong with not penalising Max Verstappen and are now promising to, punish those incidents. But obviously that means Verstappen got off scot-free. It furthers, the conspiracy theories that we've had for the last couple of years.
Don't.
It's just so. It feels like to me, it doesn't matter who's running the, the race control in Formula One. It doesn't matter who's running it. It's always going to be a shit show. We've had it, even under Charlie Whiting, it was the best under him. But even under him, we had some decisions that were just mental, to be honest, from the stewards or even just how, the process was done. Yeah, what did you think of that when you saw it?
Well, I didn't actually ever see the exact incidences in quali with Verstappen impeding Tsunoda, and at the end of the pit lane. Was that the other one that he should have got a penalty for?
Yeah, the one in the pit lane. Basically, what happened was, where they all come out of the pit lane when the green light goes.
Yeah, I did see this one.
Yeah, he just stopped and waited, I think, to give himself a gap, and then he went about 40 seconds later, which maybe is a penalty, maybe not, but the Tsunoda one was definitely a penalty. Yeah, exit of turn 2, going into turn, or not exit of turn 2, exit of turn 3, going then up to turn 5. Verstappen was just sat dawdling on the racing line, and Tsunoda completely blocked. It was a clear case. Even at the time, I said it was a clear impeding, and I was expecting a 3-place penalty. But then, yeah, he somehow got away with it. No idea why.
Yeah, I mean, so it's been pointed out so many times, and I mean, I know you've just prefaced that it doesn't matter who the stewards are, but I mean, they've got to have the same stewards for every race weekend.
Yeah.
This rotating stewards, I mean, we don't get the same rulings, we don't get any form of consistency. Just have the same stewards, or if you have any different, or if one steward can't make it, at least have 2 of the 3,
Yeah.
Because then we will at least get some form of consistency, and then the teams will understand what's a penalty and what is not. And yeah, I mean, I didn't actually see it, but I mean, even from some Verstappen fans, I've seen them saying it should have been a penalty. So, yeah, it's disappointing, but at least they've admitted that they're at fault. They made a mistake, and hopefully they don't make these same mistakes again.
Yeah. We'll see what happens with that in the future. The next track we're going to go to where that, obviously at a street circuit, you do get quite a bit of impeding. So the next track we could see that is maybe Mexico, Las Vegas. As another street circuit still to go to. Yeah, I was just thinking there was actually in the 2000s there used to be a permanent race steward, but he wasn't actually like an ex-driver. I can't remember what his name was, but there used to be a permanent race steward, I think, for a few years that was on the stewards panel, and it was for that exact reason because people were mad about there being different stewards every race weekend, so they appointed one permanent race steward, I think, for like a few years, and most of the time it proved to be better. So yeah, it's not like we've not seen it before. So yeah, let's hope that they can, have that going from next year. One thing I would like to see as well with the stewards is I would like to obviously see them have a permanent stewarding panel if they can, but I want them to increase their pool of people to choose from, because it does feel like a lot of the people that are stewards have been stewards for a while, and also we don't have that many different stewards for F1 races, it feels like. I would like to see them maybe, I don't know, freshen it up with some new faces, and maybe, people that, have raced in Formula One in a bit more recent times. Because I think, lately we've had, Enrique Benaldi, but he raced in F1 like 20 years ago. Derek Warwick, but he raced in F1 like 30 years ago. And then you've had others that, raced like 25, 30 years ago. Let's try and get someone who's, I don't know, who was racing 10, 15 years ago. That would be a bit better, because the way Formula One is nowadays is different to how it was in 1992 or 1997. So, yeah, let's hope for improvements there. But
yeah, and I've just to add some more. I've been reading stuff. I mean, team bosses have been calling out for it for years, but I mean, some team bosses are against it, and then the FIA ain't so keen on it because there could be perceived bias. But I mean, well, that just doesn't make sense. I mean, I am even seeing Verstappen here in 2017 calling for permanent F1 stewards. So, I mean, come on. It's about time, and I mean, something that a logical F1 people have been saying for quite some time.
absolutely. And I know I did see a tweet earlier. I don't know who it was by. It was one of the cultists, let's say, um, who was going full conspiracy theory about how I think like most of the driver stewards have some connection to Red Bull or Honda. Yeah, I don't think necessarily just because that is the case that means that Red Bull and Max are being favoured. I don't think necessarily, the evidence really is there, but to at least avoid those conspiracies, it would be nice if, again, they picked from a wider base, just to avoid that stuff from
You're
propping
never
up.
going to avoid that stuff, really, are you? Though.
True, but they could at least help themselves and not, lead themselves into it. I mean, at the end of the day, since the Abu Dhabi race in 2021, yeah, no matter what they do, they're always going to get, people saying about how they're biased towards Red Bull and that. But I don't think it necessarily helps with some of the people they pick, and I guess some of the connections those people have had or still have to this day. As Guy doing the grid walk, Martin Brundle not at the race this weekend, as they just interviewed Fred Vasseur, and they just pointing to Donna Lacey there on the grid, who did the qualifying interviews yesterday. So we've got what 15 minutes to go. Yeah, I haven't asked you yet. Actually, what's
Here we
your
go.
top three race prediction?
Now I'll do a top five. I'll do a top five.
Right.
All right, we're gonna go, and I will include my prediction of how many seconds Verstappen will win by. All right, so I think, well, obviously Max Verstappen will win the Japanese Grand Prix, and I'm gonna go with 33 seconds. Followed in second by Sergio Perez. I do think Perez will be able to get past the Ferraris and then past the McLarens. I mean, the Red Bull DRS is still just so powerful, and I think he'll be able to cruise up behind them and overtake the McLarens and the Red Bulls and the Ferraris pretty easily. The Red Bulls do of course have a new power unit for this weekend, so that also does help his case. And then I'm gonna go for Oscar Piastri in third. Hopefully his first podium in F1, and hopefully can make good of starting P2 on the grid. And then I'm going to go for Lando Norris in P4. And then I'm going to go for Carlos Sainz in P5.
Well, Sainz P5. I didn't see that come in. As the Japanese national anthem now starts to play, as it is really a beautiful day at Suzuka now. Yeah, guys, as we've got not that long to go now until lights out, let us know in the chat what is your top 3, top 5 race prediction before we get to the race. Let's just see some comments here in the chat. Hello to Jazztastic, Prank as well. Good to see you, and Super Kev. Find some other comments here. And of course, remember, there is still a poll rank at the top of the live chat where I've asked you guys by how much Max will win the Japanese Grand Prix. Make sure to let me know your thoughts on that before lights out. I think my prediction was 15 seconds only. He would win by. I think they're just gonna, he'll lead the first lap and then they'll just turn it right down for the rest of the race. I don't think they're gonna push that hard to build a, 30. What was it? 33-second gap.
That's just how quick you'll be, mate.
We'll see. I think that was around about the gap in Hungary. So yeah, it is possible, but and if you guys weren't around earlier, my top 5 was my top 5 race prediction was Verstappen, Piastri, Norris, Perez, and Leclerc. One of us is also correct. Is Christian Horner being interviewed on the grid. I did see something I have to just quickly mention that was a bit over the top with from one of the Sky F1 pundits from yesterday. And Max Verstappen's lap was great, but Karun Chantok said after qualifying that it was one of the best qualifying laps in F1 history. It wasn't that good. It was good. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't, Hamilton in Singapore those years ago, or loads of other Hamilton qualifying laps we've seen, or I wouldn't even say it was Max's best whole lap. I think he's had better ones, to be honest. So
Monaco's better this season.
Yeah, but one of the best laps in F1 history is, that is way over the top.
Yeah, I think he's just saying that because of the gap. And I think as we do look back over the years, I mean, it will be remembered purely because of the gap.
Yeah.
I mean, there hasn't been a bigger quality pole gap since like 2000, or was that just at Suzuka?
I think, that's
it must just be at Suzuka.
I think it was 2003 or 4. I think was the last time it was around about half a second or something. With that gap, though, the what do you call it? The sector times Piastri and Norris did, I think in sector 2 and 3 especially, was not actually in the final run was not actually their best. It wasn't their best sectors. And if you go and look at the end of Q3, Piastri and Norris did not improve on their first run. So if you look at the best sectors that each team did, McLaren were actually only 0.3 of a second slower than Red Bull. So yeah, that does kind of skew things from qualifying. I can see George Russell now getting interviewed. But yeah, it's definitely not one of the best laps in F1 history. Definitely not. Crystal Racing says Brundle is winding down his commentary career. Yeah. And it is for good reason, but he is missing more and more races because, he just can't, with his, with how old he is, he can't do, the back-to-backs, and got 25 races on the fucking calendar now. He can't do it. And for good reason. Obviously, a few years ago, he had a mini heart attack as well. We have to remember. So, yeah, a bit sad not to see him in Japan because obviously it's one of those classic races. But yeah, thankfully Sky are not, making him go to every single race. I personally, I just covering the season for the channel from my house, it can be tiring with the amount of races. I can't even imagine what it's like going to every race from, the start of March until, 2021, we literally finished, what was it, like a week before Christmas? Or something like that. It was ridiculous how late we finished.
It was like 13th of December, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was really late on. I think it was the latest finish of a season we've had by far. It was easy. And next season, I think the final race is the 8th or 9th of December. So yeah, it's crazy. And then
I don't know how I've actually pulled the exact date out my ass, by the way. 13th of December 2021.
Yeah.
Good lord.
And then what was it with next season? The first race weekend is the first weekend of March, and then the final race is 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks before Christmas. Next season is officially going to be the most races and the longest F1 season history. So yeah, it's going to be very stressful, no doubt about that. And we have got, I don't think this year we've had a triple header, but I know we have got a triple header next season, at least one. So yeah, next year's calendar is going to be quite stressful. But let's go through a couple final comments before we get into this race. Super Kev says 30 seconds. Max is completed Formula 1 just like Lewis did a couple years ago. He will easily win by 5 laps, lol. Celebrity Olympics says Verstappen, Piastri, Norris, Russell, and Leclerc. That'd be a great drive from Russell if he went from 8th up to 4th. David Taylor says Verstappen, Piastri, and Perez. Prank saying ready for my favourite track at midnight for me. Hello, Chaz and friends. Good to see you all, by the way. See if I can find a couple more before we finish up the poll and then properly get into this race. Prank saying Kimi is a steward. You won't get anything out of him if he was a steward. Hanson saying Stroll isn't going anywhere. Daddy has too much pride. Yeah, there's no point even talking about Stroll at this point because we know what the situation is. You know, the funniest thing though about it is I'm pretty sure this happens every year. Certain F1 websites will have they'll have a list of the whole grid, and this is when their contract ends. With Lance Stroll, I had a look at one of those websites the other day, and Lance Stroll, his contract end date, it just said unknown, and then in brackets it says something like when the team says otherwise. So basically, it's a permanent contract until, I don't know, like 30 years from now. And yeah, it is literally just whenever with Stroll. We've heard that, officially he will be with the team next season. But obviously they've got a Works Honda deal coming in for 2026. Maybe they'll replace Stroll with Yuki Tsunoda for that year, but I would not be surprised if Stroll was still at this team in 2026. I would not be surprised, to be honest, as the F1 intro now beginning to play. So let me just end this poll quickly. So after just just over 200 votes, you guys have let me know by how much will Max Verstappen win the Japanese Grand Prix. And with 43% of the vote, you guys have gone for 20 seconds and then 30 seconds. And obviously the other two options were just a meme from me, which were a full lap ahead and 1 minute. I don't think we're going to see that again like you used to see like 50 years ago. Anyway, obviously he's going to win by a comfortable margin. But let's quickly get into a couple things before the start. The championship standings. Max Verstappen cannot win the driver's title today, but he is 151 points clear of Perez and is very close to winning the Drivers' Championship. Lewis Hamilton is in third, 10 points clear of Fernando Alonso fourth. And then you've got Sainz fifth, Leclerc sixth, Russell seventh, only 12 points clear, Russell, of Lando Norris in eighth, Stroll in ninth, and Pierre Gasly in 10th. And on the constructors' side, Red Bull can win the constructors' title today. If they outscore Mercedes by 1 point and Ferrari do not outscore Red Bull by 24 or more points, Red Bull will be champions. So basically, yeah, if Red Bull win the race and Mercedes don't get, on the podium, then realistically, Red Bull will win the championship. Of course, still does depend on where Perez ends up. Mercedes then second, only 24 points clear of Ferrari, who have the jump on them on the grid. Aston Martin fourth, McLaren fifth. McLaren, though, 78 points behind, and surely will be closing that gap in fifth place at the moment are McLaren. And then you got Alpine in sixth, Williams seventh, Haas eighth, only 2 points clear of Alfa Romeo, with AlphaTauri at the very back. But let's now get into, guys, your starting grid for today's Japanese Grand Prix. On the front row, it is Max Verstappen and Oscar Piastri. On the second row, Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc. The third row, Sergio Perez and Carlos Sainz. On the fourth row is an all-Mercedes fourth row of Lewis Hamilton and George Russell, and completing the top 10, home driver Yuki Tsunoda and Fernando Alonso. Just outside the top 10, you've got Liam Lawson and Pierre Gasly. And then Alexander Albon and Esteban Ocon, 13th and 14th. 15th and 16th are two Scandinavians of Kevin Magnussen and Valtteri Bottas. Penultimate row of the grid, Lance Stroll and his old, not ex-teammate, but temporary teammate from the past, Nico Hülkenberg, alongside him on the grid. And at the back, it will be Zhou Guanyu, and Logan Sargent will be starting from the pit lane and will have to serve a 10-second penalty during the race as well for a Parc Ferme infringement, I believe. But before quickly we get into the race, let me just delete a few graphics so make sure the stream runs smooth, as we are just moments away from getting underway here for this race. And you can see here, that's my race prediction for the top 10. Let's see if it comes true. And, well, let me hide that tyre graphic because it's not been confirmed yet who is on exactly what compound. 53-lap race it will be. And according to Pirelli, it will be a 2-stop race. So at least that will be interesting, even if we don't get on track that many overtakes. It is definitely possible, though, to overtake here. We've seen races here in the past with multiple overtakes formation lap should be underway pretty shortly. Next few seconds or so. And great to see a packed house at Suzuka. Go on.
I've misclicked on that. All the top 8 starting on mediums. Sonoda, the highest runner, starting on softs in P9. Alonso, Lawson, Bottas, Stroll, Hulkenberg, and Zhou all on softs. And I mean, it's currently 44 degrees track temperature, so it is quite hot.
Yeah.
In Japan, so high deck is going to certainly play a factor today.
Yeah, Pirelli. They were saying after as the formation lap has begun, by the way, begun about 10 seconds ago. Pirelli were saying after Friday practice that there was all quite bad issues with the tyres in terms of the overheating. And on Friday was it was the coolest day. We even had some spots of rain. So yeah, that is definitely going to be an issue for these teams today.
Wait, this is the first time I've ever seen this. Pirelli have actually tweeted out on their Twitter page what tyres everyone's starting on. I don't know if they've ever done that before. That's great.
Well, yeah, thankfully they've done that. A lot of people struggle to get that info quickly as possible. As Max Verstappen on this formation lap is just exiting the second Degner. Will very quickly be coming up to the hairpin in a moment. And yeah, surely in this race comfortably. Great crowd here at Suzuka. Many AlphaTauri flags. Of course, for Yuki Tsunoda. Top few cars now just exiting the hairpin. Verstappen now coming into the spoon curve. And of course, Max Verstappen won this race last year. What a race when it was in such difficult conditions. Won the race by, I think, 25 seconds. As here is the visor cam we're looking at now of Yuki Tsunoda as he comes up to spoon. Yeah, as long as he gets into the top 10 today and he can secure where he is on the grid, then that would be ideally a brilliant result. Now, top few cars just entering the final chicane. And we will be underway about, what, 40 seconds time? Something like that. As Verstappen and Piastri, of course, the first two on the grid. Weekend attendance there, they're just showing 222,000. There is Zach Brown, very much keen to see not one, but both McLarens on the podium. The last time, I believe, both McLarens were on the podium was the race win they had at Monza back in 2021. As Verstappen, interestingly, has pointed his car towards Piastri. And Piastri, to be honest, looks like he's got his car slightly pointed towards Verstappen. So aggressive positioning there, definitely from Max. Now, some of the final few cars just coming out of the final corner. Ferrari mechanics ready as Alonso really lighting up his rear tyres as he gets onto the grid. Final few cars lining up. So, with Red Bull on pole position today, can they secure the Constructors' Championship and get back to winning races? Let's see, as all the cars are now lined up. Logan Sargent comes into the pit lane. Green flag now waving. The lights are on. It's 3, 4, 5 lights. And it's lights out at Suzuka. And Max Verstappen does not get a great start and comes across the block. Piastri and Lando Norris round the outside as there's cars touching the grass in the background. And Max Verstappen somehow maintains the lead ahead of Lando Norris. And then Piastri is third. Alonso has had a brilliant start. Alonso is up to 6th place. As we've got a yellow flag in Sector 1. The two AlphaTauris side by side. Coming through turn 7, I think that is. And they're still side by side. The two AlphaTauris coming into Degner 1 as one of them goes down the inside and the other now trying to go back up the inside into second Degner. And nearly contact made, and it is Lawson who was the one who, I believe, made the dive at the first Degner. Brilliant move by Lawson, who is now ahead of Tsunoda. So, very close start there. So let me just get the order quickly correct, as one of the Alfa Romeos might have damage. So it is Verstappen and full safety car on lap 1. And yeah, they did look, and yeah, there is debris there. I thought I saw contact, but I couldn't be sure. I definitely saw one of the Mercedes on the grass into turn 1.
Yeah, there was a whole lot of contact going on.
And it can narrow quite a bit into turn 1. And you can sometimes have, 3 wide. And yeah,
there is a lot of debris.
Yeah, and Valtteri Bottas, we're now seeing his right wing end, right hand side of his front wing end plate missing, and he's just slowly coming back to the pits, and looks like one of his tyres is a bit damaged. And Zhou there also got damage, as Bottas saying he has a puncture. And yeah, it looks like he does on the front right as we're on lap 2 under a full safety car. Let me just quickly do the order. So it is Verstappen from Norris, Piastri, Leclerc, Sainz, and then Alonso. And here is the race start, Niv. I'll let you take us through it.
Yeah, as I eventually get there in about 2 million years, of course. Now the race start. But yes, as you called, Verstappen got a pretty terrible start. I mean, Piastri was alongside him, but both of them were so focused on each other that Norris was able to just go nearly completely around the outside, and it looked like further back some contact between Stroll as I mean, I think Piastri, by the end of it, once they got anywhere near each other, he backed out and just allowed them to go around the outside. The smart move just to get through turn 1. But, I mean, Lando's start was pretty ridiculous, as there was a big old squeeze. I think that was the Mercedes and some other cars were trying to go nearly 4 wide there into turn 1.
Yeah, I've just seen an onboard of Carlos Sainz. You'll see it in a moment. As, Hamilton actually made contact with Perez, and Carlos Sainz nearly collected his teammate and Perez, I think. Very, very close to a massive accident. And, that was a big one. I know it wasn't, Albon didn't end up even going off the track eventually, but, Albon getting briefly sent up into the air by the Alfa Romeo.
Oh.
And,
it's a dirty move up the inside. Oh, geez, yeah, that could have been really bad.
And, that was came out of nowhere, really, that little move. And I think it was Bottas and Stroll got close on the inside, and Bottas came over slightly too much and then went straight into Albon. And then that's what caused damage to Zhou's front wing. The debris fell back and took his front wing off.
Yeah.
So, disaster.
I hope they show us an onboard of Alonso's start, because he pulled off a dirty move up the inside of Perez into one of the S's.
Yeah.
It's quite beautiful.
As seen the replay, Piastri getting blocked out, and then that allowed Lando to go around the outside. Obviously, the outside line, the better line, as Sergio Perez on lap 3, still under a safety car. Sergio Perez is pitting for a new front wing. So clearly, that touch with Hamilton is big enough for proper damage. So Perez into the pits. Logan Sargent obviously now can take his 10-second penalty, presumably. I'm not sure if he can or not. But he's in the pits.
Yeah, not sure.
As Sergio Perez there comes out in between an Alpine and an Alfa Romeo, and then the Alfa Romeo there going back past him. That might be a bit of a thing there for the stewards to look at in terms of an illegal overtake by either Perez or Zhou. Anyway, let me just, on lap 3 under full safety car, let me just get the order correct. So it is Verstappen, Norris, Piastri, Leclerc, Sainz, Alonso, and then Hamilton, Russell, and then Liam Lawson up to 9th place. Brilliant move up the inside of Degner 1 by Lawson. And then Tsunoda 10th. Lance Stroll has had an amazing start. He's up to 11th place. And then you've got Hulkenberg, amazing start, all the way up to 12th. And then Magnussen 13th. With, Gasly 13th. And then Magnussen 14th. Ocon 15th. Zhou 16th. Perez in 18th now. So Albon 17th. Perez 18th. Sargent 19th. And Valtteri Bottas in 20th place. As here is a replay of Alfa Romeo replacing the front wing of Valtteri Bottas, and they actually were late bringing the front wing out, which is surprising, given that they would have already known that there was front wing damage. And it was a 33-second pit stop, as they also had trouble lifting the car up.
I've got to say, Chaz, that is going to be one of the most clumsy starts for an F1 race I've seen in quite a while. I mean, I remember at the start of this, at some stage this season, I was bemusing that, we had no incidences on the first lap because everyone was driving so clean, but could be further from the case there.
Yeah, it was pretty clumsy, really, from, 5th, 6th place down. Just a lot of squeezing and unnecessary contact. But, we're now on lap 4, still under a safety car. And let me try and now get some of the tyres correct on my end. And, actually, I'll wait because they're not showing it quite yet. As Sergio Perez noted for a safety car infringement, which I think might be overtaking illegally briefly, even though I think he's let back through the car that he may have illegally overtaken. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, Sergio Perez 18th now, having pitted for a new front wing, and the safety car will be in at the end of this lap. Of course, no overtaking until the start-finish line. But brilliant start from Alonso from 10th to 6th. Of course, we know Fernando, a great starter, but that's an amazing progression from Fernando, as we're just looking back at Yuki Tsunoda's helmet. And very close racing between him and Lawson, and thankfully they didn't make contact, which it looked like they were going to make contact. For AlphaTauri, at least, both cars are in the top 10. As safety car, now they're heading towards 130R. The safety car should be coming in and speeding off into the distance. And Max Verstappen now begins to back off. So, as long as Max gets a good exit from the final chicane, he should be fine. 1 plus, the Red Bull is quicker, as we know, in a straight line compared to McLaren. And I think preferably Max will want to get things going before the final chicane so he can build some momentum. Really starting to back things up now on the entry to the chicane. Hopefully doesn't back it up too much, because it can get a bit close. Back up too much and still backing it up. Not anymore, though. Gets things going in the entry to the chicane. And Max Verstappen begins lap 5 of 53, and we are underway again. So it is Verstappen, Norris, Piastri, Leclerc, Sainz, Alonso, Hamilton, Russell, Lawson, and Tsunoda, your top 10. And then Stroll, Hulkenberg, Gasly, Magnussen, Ocon, Zhou, Albon, Perez, Sargent, and Bottas. So, as everyone gets away in position, they just now do the tyres. So, Fernando Alonso is on the soft compound tyre. You've got Liam Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda on the soft tyre as well as Alonso really looking racy behind Carlos Sainz. He's got a decent run on Sainz going into the hairpin. Will he send it? Not quite, but he looks like he's got a lot more grip than Carlos does right now. And then you've got Stroll on the soft, Hulkenberg on the soft, Gasly and Magnussen on the medium. Ocon on the hard. Zhou on the soft. There's an Alfa Romeo of Valtteri Bottas who has gone off clearly at the hairpin and says, "What the fuck?" No idea what's happened there. But yeah, you got Albon on the medium. As the two Mercedes racing close, and Russell up the inside of Hamilton into the final chicane. And Hamilton fights him back, but Russell, with a brilliant move, gets ahead. What a move that was from George Russell. And that was incredibly close, but Hamilton coming back and makes a little move towards his teammate and gets the position back. Great racing between the two with the AlphaTauri of Lawson just behind. I gotta be honest, I'm surprised they didn't make contact there. I thought they were, with how hard Hamilton was fighting.
Yeah, that was some good hard racing at the chicane, and I mean, the Silver Wars, baby.
Yep, as we're just seeing a replay now of the wrong bit, actually, of Hamilton. Well, getting how he got back past Russell, but here it is into the chicane. And Hamilton kept himself up the inside of Russell into the second part of the chicane and then just got the better exit, and that's why he got back ahead. But what do you call it? Sergio Perez is now up to 17th place, and here's a replay of Bottas with Sargent and, oh dear, Logan Sargent locking up and going straight into the side of Bottas. And yes, Sargent locking in is outside front and just, yeah, that's going to be a penalty quite clearly for Logan Sargent. As we're now on lap 7, Max Verstappen 2 seconds clear of Lando Norris and has done the fastest lap of 1:36.7, massively quicker than anybody else, as Piastri 2 seconds behind Norris, and as both Ferraris not too far behind him, as we're looking at Sergio Perez now on the hard tyre, right behind Zhou Guanyu, as Bottas now ahead of Sargent and Bottas on the soft tyre. Yes, Sargent should get a penalty. What a terrible weekend from Logan. As now Valtteri Bottas coming into the pits. Maybe Bottas has got too much damage. We'll have to see.
That's a pretty hefty hit.
Yeah. It was really poor mistake from Logan. Really, really poor. As yeah,
I don't think Bottas could have gone any wider into the hairpin than what he was going to.
Yeah.
And he still beat it.
Yeah, he gave him so much space. As, yeah, Bottas into the pits and looks like he's out. We're having a look at the suspension. And are they going to send him back out? We're having a look. And nope, he's come back out. So they're going to keep him out there. But I wouldn't be surprised if he retired. To be honest, his race is basically over. As Sargent back up to 19th now. as we are on lap 8. And here is Sergio Perez just diving down the inside of Zhou Guanyu at the final chicane. So Perez up to 16th. Perez on the hard compound tyre. So now he is playing the long game. So let me just update that he is on the hard with Zhou soft. And at the very back, got Logan Sargent on the medium. Actually, Valtteri Bottas now on the hard compound tyre. So did go for a new set of tyres. As thankfully, from McLaren's point of view, Oscar Piastri has now pulled over a second clear of Leclerc. So both McLarens safe for now. The battle to look out for, though, is the one between Leclerc, Sainz, Alonso, and Hamilton. Because Sainz, Alonso, and Hamilton have, or are within a second of the cars ahead, meaning they all have DRS advantage over Leclerc. As Bottas saying on the radio, it's undrivable. So Valtteri out of this race, sadly. Of course, won here 4 years ago, as there is the Alpine of Esteban Ocon trying to get a move done possibly on Kevin Magnussen, but he's not close enough, unfortunately, to do so. Ocon, like Perez, right behind him on the hard compound tyre. As now Ocon, is he going to have a go into turn 1? Up the inside, late move, but he doesn't get it done. Perez now really closing in. As Nico Hülkenberg has pitted very early for Haas. So Hülkenberg now 18th. Has gone on to that medium compound tyres. I think Hülkenberg started on the soft. As Logan Sargent has, a 5-second penalty, causing a collision. Absolute slam dunk, that one.
Yep, 5-second penalty for ending a driver's race. Yep, once again.
Yeah, it is ridiculous. That's one thing they've got to work on over the winter with the regs. So Gasly in 12th on the mediums, and they got Magnussen on the medium. Ocon and Perez on the hard. And then Zhou on the soft. And Albon on the medium. So we're now lap 10 out of 53. And Sergio Perez has been given a 5-second time penalty for that safety car infringement. And that will be for illegally passing a car. So it gets even worse for Perez, as we're currently looking at good battle here between Hamilton and Alonso racing for 6th. Hamilton looking a lot quicker now on the mediums, as those soft tyres on the Aston Martin really starting to degrade, I think, now. As Yuki Tsunoda pits first for AlphaTauri, comes out in 17th place on the medium compound tyre. Of course, he started on the soft. So let me just update that. Gasly on the medium, Magnussen medium, Ocon and Perez on the hard, and then Zhou on the soft, Albon on the medium. Tsunoda, Hülkenberg, Sargent on mediums as well. Here's a replay on board with Perez, and passing a car there quite clearly. That is not allowed.
Yeah, he's as really coming out the pit lane. Oh yeah, it's almost like he just wasn't paying attention.
Yeah. He did actually do that a couple years ago at Imola, so has form, unfortunately, of overtaking cars behind a safety car. As Liam Lawson, now from 9th place pits, as Esteban Ocon onto lap 11, really close behind Kevin Magnussen. Magnussen defends to the inside, and Ocon, great move round the outside, and he's up now to 11th as Zhou has also pitted.
Yeah, surely these Aston Martins are going to be coming into the pits as well soon to get off these soft compound tyres.
Yeah, they're going away pretty quickly, and actually going away quicker than Pirelli predicted, which good for our entertainment, as Liam Lawson has come out behind Yuki Tsunoda, so Tsunoda makes up a position there. So it's now Tsunoda 15th, Lawson 16th. Of course, they pitted one a bit earlier than the others, as Perez gets very close to Magnussen ahead and thankfully does not hit the back of him. But let me just correct some of the tyres, as Alpine now 10th and 11th, and they've got their tyre choice right of Alpine, as Perez going wide at Spoon and giving Magnussen breathing space. As
no idea how Perez didn't hit him at the hairpin, by the way.
Yeah, he got ridiculously close. As he will close back in on Magnussen into the final chicane. As yep, Fernando Alonso pits for Aston Martin on lap 12 of 53. And it is a set of hard tyres, interestingly. Not the mediums like the others who started on softs have gone on to. So, Alonso, good pit stop. Where will he come out in relation to the AlphaTauris? Should be ahead. And, yeah, by a couple seconds, he is ahead. So, had to make the pit stop then, or else they would have been in trouble. So, Alonso now in 14th place, I believe. Yep, on the hard compound tyre. Just one update that Zhou in 18th is on the soft. Perez really close to Magnussen now on the entry to the hairpin. Will Perez send it? He does. Magnussen turns in though, and contact is made. That was the most inevitable thing I think I've ever seen. And Magnussen clearly does have form of crashing with others here. And debris at the hairpin as well, and that probably is going to be a safety car. Yeah, I think Perez probably at fault for that. He was just a bit too far behind.
Yeah.
As he says on the radio, fuck, I have front wing damage again. Yeah, that's just
very clearly Perez's fault there. It's not you're not in the 2012 or 2013 Sauber. It's not the Kobayashi hairpin anymore. It's I'll be doing that.
Yeah, and he definitely isn't as skilled at that move as Kobayashi. As
I don't know if you saw on F1 Twitter during the week, but there was a compilation of Kobayashi's moves at the hairpin.
Yeah.
And in one of them, Crofty said he's going to send it like Leroy Jenkins. Like, I'm like, what on earth is that Crofty reference? Like, just would never expect him to say that. But both of them are in the pits now.
Yep, and Perez having to wait 5 seconds now. Because he's obviously just been given a penalty, and obviously he'll get another penalty, I think, soon. As no yellow flag, so clearly they're fine with the debris at the hairpin unless they've already cleared it. But let's just correct the order now that Perez and Magnussen have pitted. Well, hold on a minute, because they're showing a replay of Perez through the final chicane. And also, I think they're showing a replay. I think actually that's what the infringement was. He overtook the Aston Martin before the pit entry line. I think that's what it was, is Oscar Piastri pits for McLaren. Interesting that they're pitting Piastri first as virtual safety car is deployed. Great timing.
Oh, masterclass.
As he goes on to, it's not the greatest pit stop, but he goes on to the hard compound tyre, and he will come out. Will he come out ahead of Gasly? No, he won't. Just behind Gasly. That's a shame, but he is in 9th place, and he won't lose as much. Will Oscar so? Piastri, yeah, in 9th place. Let me just get the order correct on lap 14. The virtual safety car, of course, deployed for the debris at the hairpin. So it's Verstappen, Norris, Leclerc, Sainz, Hamilton, Russell, Stroll, Gasly, Piastri, Ocon, and then Alonso in 11th with Tsunoda 12th, Lawson 13th, Hulkenberg 14th, as Williams hitting Albon, and I think Albon's saying the car doesn't feel right. Hulkenberg 14th, Zhou 15th as the virtual safety car now ending. Zhou 15th, Albon 16th, and then Magnussen. Actually, Magnussen ahead of Albon now in 16th, and then Albon now overtaken by Sargent. Is he? Nope. Albon has kept the position. Then it's Albon 17th, Sargent 18th, and Sergio Perez is last of all and is, I think, a lap down. Sergio Perez. He's quite far behind now. Maybe he's not a lap down. We'll have to see, as we're just begun lap 15. And Max Verstappen on lap 15, 9 seconds clear of Lando Norris. At this rate, Max is definitely going to win the race by at least half a minute. As, yeah, Perez and Magnussen under investigation, causing a collision. And just a radio message there for Perez saying retire the car. Don't know if that was Perez saying that or the team, but yeah. Looking at his current pace, yeah, comes into the pits. Sergio Perez, a disaster class from him, and he's out of the race as Lance Stroll makes his first pit stop. Of course, started on the soft tyre, comes out behind Tsunoda, Lawson, and Hulkenberg, so loses position to Hulkenberg, but he is on fresher tyres now, at least. But, right, so Stroll in 14th. Yeah, Perez out of the race. What a horrible showing from Perez. That might be the worst race I've ever seen from him. That was just terrible. He was terrible the entire time. As Lando there, just a replay of him being or getting close with Sergio Perez, who I think was touring back to the pits, and Norris briefly getting pushed almost off the track. Just I think a miscommunication there, more than anything. As right. As Oscar Piastri overtakes Pierre Gasly and is up to 7th place now on lap 16. And yeah, that virtual safety car has worked well for Oscar, as he's only how many seconds? He's definitely, if Lando Norris pitted now, Oscar would come out ahead of him by a few seconds. So it's worked very well for him. So, yeah. Just get the tyres correct, though, for everybody else on now lap 16. Right.
Well, it's a 22-second delta for pit stops, so he'd comfortably come out ahead of Norris. I mean, he'd be pretty close to Max at this moment.
Yep, as
if Max is still a pit now.
Two Mercedes very close to the hairpin. No idea why. As George Russell now side by side with Hamilton coming to Boone. And that was close. Hamilton, maybe you could say, pushing Russell off the track through Spoon. And these two really going the wall with each other. Of course, there was a big debate after Singapore. Should have Hamilton been ahead of Russell? Clearly, Russell wanting to prove a point. Will he dive down the inside of the hairpin? Why have you cut away at that moment? Got Max Verstappen pit stop. I don't know why.
Hamilton went off at the second degner. That's why they were so close.
Right. As we're on lap 17 and Max Verstappen now making his first pit stop. Going on to a hard tyre. Lewis Hamilton pits as well. So clearly we're struggling with the tyres. And Max Verstappen does indeed, not by that much, but does come out ahead of Piastri by about 2.5 seconds. So they had to do that pit stop. So Norris now leading from Leclerc, Sainz, Russell, and then Verstappen with Piastri in 6th. Lewis Hamilton now 10th. And behind Alonso, of course, Alonso has pitted once as well. Hamilton only just coming out ahead of the two AlphaTauris. So, lap 17. And let's just see what happened here with Hamilton. And yeah, understeered wide, tyres clearly suffering and went through the gravel. And then, yeah, Russell into Spoon. Tried to go around the outside. Then Russell saying on the radio, who do we want to fight here, each other or the others? I'm not sure there's enough there to say that Hamilton pushed him off, but yeah. Difficult situation for Mercedes to handle. As
It's a bit of, well, I mean, I suppose it didn't really fight, but it's a bit of Malaysia 2013 about this.
yeah,
With the two Mercedes just going at it. That incident at Spoon does remind me a lot of Vettel Verstappen there in 2018, just without the contact, really.
yeah, it was incredibly close as Norris and Leclerc have pitted for their respective teams, and Lando Norris comes out ahead of Alonso, and Alonso has jumped Charles Leclerc. Of course, Leclerc on much fresher tyres, but Alonso has gained a position as now Lance Stroll overtakes Nico Hülkenberg for 13th place. So it is currently Sainz in the lead from Russell 2nd, Verstappen 3rd, Piastri 4th, and then Gasly 5th, Ocon in 6th, and then Norris, Alonso, Leclerc, and Hamilton. Let me, as Ferrari now tell Carlos Sainz to pit, let me just do a couple of the tyre graphics. So Verstappen on the hard, Piastri on the hard, Gasly on the medium, Ocon on hard, then Norris on the hard, Alonso on the hard tyre. Leclerc, interestingly, has come out on the medium compound tyre. So Ferrari, of course, they started on the medium, so Ferrari are officially there with Leclerc committing to a 2-stop race. I think everyone here is going to do a 2-stop race, but still, just official confirmation. As now, on lap 19, Carlos Sainz pits from the lead and also goes on to a set of mediums as Max Verstappen now within a second of George Russell. So, Russell, Verstappen, and then Piastri, your top 3. And then Lando Norris is now 4th. Pierre Gasly has also pitted. And Sainz has come out behind Alonso. And Alonso has been overtaken out of nowhere by Leclerc. So
yeah, you missed that. They were showing it. Yeah, Leclerc just went up the inside at turn 1 on the pit straight.
Verstappen here up the inside of Russell, and Russell basically at the hairpin let him through. Not literally, but that's how it looked. So much more grip on the fresher tyre, and Verstappen into the lead and miles clear of the next car that has already made a pit stop. So it is Verstappen, Russell, Piastri, Norris, And Leclerc and Ocon now side by side. Going into Spoon, and Leclerc gets ahead. So it is Leclerc in 5th, Ocon 6th, Alonso 7th, Sainz 8th, Hamilton 9th, Tsunoda 10th, Lawson 11th. Gasly has come out all the way down in 15th, but is on much fresher tyres now. As we're on lap 20 at a 53. And Mercedes, interestingly, have kept Russell out on track. So they are going for a different strategy with Russell, who is still out there on the mediums. Maybe might try a one-stop race with him so they can go a bit further into this race. Russell is 5 seconds clear of Piastri, so not like he's going to be under pressure in the next lap or so. As Lando Norris just did the fastest lap of the race in 4th. Lando 4.5 seconds behind Piastri. But let me now do the tyres. So Verstappen leading on the hard. Russell 2nd, hasn't pitted yet on the medium. Then you got Piastri and Norris on the hard. Leclerc on the medium. Ocon on the hard. Alonso on the hard. Sainz on the medium. Hamilton on the hard. Alonso, will he send it at the hairpin? Not quite, but Carlos Sainz having a good run at Alonso. And then you got Tsunoda, Lawson. And here comes Carlos Sainz round the outside, and the inside it will be now for Spoon. Brilliant move. Spaniard on Spaniard, and Sainz is up to 7th. I'll correct that in a moment. You got Tsunoda, Lawson, Stroll, and Hulkenberg on the medium. And then Gasly now on the hard. I'll correct that in a moment. And then Joe on the soft. Magnussen on the hard. Then Albon on the soft. And Sargent on the medium, as now Sainz goes to pass Ocon on lap 21. Also, I've just remembered that I've not corrected that Perez is officially out of the race. I will do that in a moment. There's just been so much going on. I haven't had time to do so, so I'll do that in a second. As Hamilton getting close to Alonso through the exit of turn 1 and turn 2, as Lance Stroll has dropped a couple positions, as Stroll hitting for some reason. That's a very early second pit stop, considering he only pitted a few laps ago. As Gasly had a show, and yes, Stroll now down in 15th. But let me just correct quickly that Sergio Perez is out of the race, as Lewis Hamilton up the inside now of Alonso through the hairpin, but hasn't got enough momentum to try and get an overtake done. And we'll have to wait. Hamilton running slightly wide through the first part of Spoon. Let me just update that. Well, not Hamilton, but Alonso is on the hard, and just ahead, you've got Carlos Sainz on the medium, as Lewis Hamilton up the inside of Fernando Alonso at 130R, and Alonso really starting to struggle on his tyres, which is unusual to see from Aston Martin. They're struggling quite heavily, as Lance Stroll still in the pit, so clearly he is out of the race as well. 3 retirements already, as Hamilton moves his way up the inside of Ocon, and Hamilton now up to 7th place. There you go. Lap 22. So it is Verstappen in the lead from Russell, Piastri, Norris, Leclerc, Sainz, Hamilton, Ocon, Alonso, Tsunoda. Russell, by the way, remember, has not pitted yet. Russell's lap times, though, compared to the McLarens, I mean, he's slower, but not losing as much time as I expected. As, yes, Stroll looks like there's a problem with his rear wing. Looks a bit wonky and a bit loose as well. So,
got to be something to do with that lap 1 contact.
Yeah. So Lance Stroll out of the Japanese Grand Prix. Yeah, already 3 retirements. So let me just update as well that Nico Hülkenberg has pitted. Logan Sargent now pitting. Hülkenberg has come out in 15th. Actually, is it 15th? Yes, it is. And yeah, Logan Sargent now last of all, as Gasly in 12th is on the hard tyre. Joe on the soft. Hülkenberg now out there on the hard with, what do you call it? Alex Albon on the soft as Alonso trying to pass Ocon, and then that got pretty close into turn 1. I only saw the end of it as he entered turn 1, but that looked like a very late defensive move by Esteban Ocon as we're on lap 23 out of 53. And McLaren telling Norris, we think Russell will try and do a one-stop, therefore he's only a threat if we abuse our tyres. As Piastri just a second behind Russell now. Lando has been a lot quicker than Piastri in the last few laps. Of course, is on fresher tyres, so I guess you would expect that to a degree. But Piastri needs to be passing Russell really in the next minute or so, as here is Gasly brilliantly sailing round the outside of Lawson at turn 1. Yeah, definitely Russell is on a one-stop strategy. I don't think there's any doubt about that now. And you'd have to say, so is Esteban Ocon, who is still running in the top 10 as we're on lap 24. Russell still second, but Piastri now has DRS, but he won't be close enough to make a move yet.
So, Aston Martin have confirmed that Stroll's rear wing has failed, so they've had to retire the car for safety reasons.
Yeah, good that obviously they were able to bring him in before something serious happened. As we're now on board with Oscar Piastri in third, as Gasly, incredibly quick, now passed another car, Yuki Tsunoda, and he's into the top 10. And remember, his teammate Ocon hasn't pitted yet, so it's a net 9th place for Gasly. And yeah, he's having a good day. So Gasly in 10th. And let me just correct that he is on the hard tyre instead of Tsunoda, who is on the medium, as the AlphaTauris are just starting to struggle to a degree. As Logan Sargent in the pits again, so I've got to assume that he's got a problem with his car. As here comes, on lap 25, George Russell for his first and what should be only pit stop, as he will surely go onto a set of hard compound tyres. Let's see, as he comes into his pit box now. And yeah, hard tyres, and he will be a threat now going forward on very fresh tyres. So, it is Piastri second, Norris third, Leclerc fourth, Sainz fifth, Hamilton sixth. Ocon is still ahead of Alonso, even though Ocon hasn't pitted. So, Alonso will be spitting feathers behind the wheel, as McLaren team radio there saying, and it's Lando, talking up the longer I spend behind Piastri, something, I couldn't quite see. So, Russell
the worst
in
you're
ninth.
going to make the race for me.
Yeah, well, at the minute, I mean, Norris is 5 seconds clear of Leclerc. If they can continue to pull away, As Russell here going up the inside of Alonso. Is he at the hairpin? He does. Makes it the outside line now, going up to Spoon. And keeps holding it. And yes, Russell has got the position on much fresher tyres. And George Russell up to 8th. And he'll pass Ocon probably in a few corners' time. As long as they keep slowly pulling away from Ferrari, then I don't really see what the issue is. I mean, obviously their main rival at this point is Russell, because he's on, massively fresh tyres. There's Norris really close to Piastri on the exit of turn 2. They look fine to me at the moment, but with Norris now getting really close, I do wonder what they'll decide to do.
I think Norris will overtake Piastri. I mean, Norris is caught up 5.5 seconds since the pit stops of them both. So yeah, I mean, I just think that Norris will overtake Oscar.
Yeah, looks likely. He was about 5 seconds behind, I think, Lando when he pitted. Of course, a few laps after Piastri. So yeah, it is looking likely as Lando put his car on the inside, but Piastri did not, of course, and he shouldn't have let him through. But we'll see if Lando is able to put himself in a position to overtake at the beginning of lap 27, as he's now in the slipstream going through 130R, as Lando saying on the radio, it's just ruining the race now if he wants George to beat then. Yeah, Norris now exiting the final chicane, and surely he is close on this occasion. Surely will pass Piastri down to turn 1, and Piastri doesn't even defend, which is the smart thing to do, as Lando is currently much faster. So Norris in 2nd and Piastri in 3rd. What a race we've had so far. We are, I think, just over now, halfway through this Japanese Grand Prix. By the way, Logan Sargent is out of the race now as well. So 4 retirements in just 26.5 or 27.5 laps. As looks like Sergio Perez is getting back into his Red Bull car. So looks like they're going to possibly send him back out, which I don't really see the benefit of doing that, to be honest. But hey, but yeah, Max Verstappen in the lead, and Max is actually on the medium compound tyre. Sorry about that. I assumed he was on the hard tyre. No, he's on the medium, and Max is what, 13 seconds almost clear of Lando Norris. As another car is out of the race, and it's Alex Albon. Both Williamses out of the race. As Alonso has just made a mistake, I think, because he's just lost position to Gasly and Tsunoda. Liam Lawson has pitted again. Cars are dropping like flies here. We're all struggling. So Alonso, let's see what happened here. Went up the inside of Zhou. He must have just pitted and I haven't seen. Because, yeah.
No idea.
As good move there from Fernando up the inside of Zhou. Lawson is now 15th on lap 28 of 53. Yeah, Max Verstappen 13 seconds clear of Lando Norris. Max is on the medium, and Lando on the hard compound tyre. But
so
go on.
Harris is just going back out to serve his penalty, basically.
I don't see. It's not like he's going to carry over to the next race, is it? So I don't see why why they need to do that.
That's what they're doing.
As we're looking at Piastri as we're on lap 29. And I will put it up on the screen in a moment that Albon is out of the race. As Norris is 19.5 seconds clear of George Russell. If Norris can do another few laps and then pit again, then that should be, he should have enough pace with fresher tyres and enough time to then get back past Russell. But of course, it does depend on what the others do. We know Ferrari are going to be pitting again because they haven't used a different compound yet. But yeah, we'll find out eventually. But yeah, Alexander Albon is out of the race as well. So only 15 cars remain as Esteban Ocon pits for Alpine. And Ocon, with what is going to be his first and only pit stop, comes out on another set of hard tyres. So he is going for a 2-stop race instead. Presumably, we'll finish the race on a set of soft tyres. Here is Alonso now, right up behind Tsunoda. So, right, let me just correct that you've got Ocon on the hard, Joe on the soft. Surprised Joe is still out there on the soft, to be honest. Alonso on the hard and Tsunoda on the medium. And also, leave Nico Hulkenberg. Yep, is ahead of Kevin Magnussen. And Alonso now ahead of Tsunoda into Spoon on lap 30 of 53. And the next car for Alonso to catch is Pierre Gasly, 10.5 seconds ahead. We are now looking at Magnussen and Lawson racing over last place, basically. I just wanted to say quickly, before we move into the rest of this race, don't forget to subscribe, guys. If you are new to the channel, we do watch-alongs for every qualifying and race, so make sure to subscribe if you are new. Keep bang up to date with what's going on in Formula 1. And for everybody watching right now, make sure to smash the like button because we are currently on, 72 likes. Let's try and get up to, 85, 90 likes, something like that by the end of the race. As Liam Lawson passes Kevin Magnussen as Joe now pits. And Joe now last. We'll see what tyres Joe comes out on. Probably a set of hard tyres, and yes, it is set hard tyres. So with the 15 cars remaining, we've got only 4 cars on medium tyres. Everybody else is on a hard compound tyre. So Ocon a hard, Tsunoda on the medium. And then Alonso on the hard. Yeah. The cars on the medium compound. Verstappen, Leclerc, Sainz, and Tsunoda. As we're on now lap 31 of 53 in this pulsating Japanese Grand Prix.
Certainly started to calm down over the last 5 or so laps, though, hasn't it?
Yeah,
first 3 laps are great.
Yeah,
but it's starting to slow down now.
Yeah, it was very high octane first 20 laps, no doubt about that. As Yuki Tsunoda now pitting for the final time and going on to a set of hard tyres. So Ocon now into the top 10. See where Tsunoda comes out. So Tsunoda, where will he come out in relation to Lawson? He comes out behind. Of course, he was ahead of Lawson. Or Lawson pitted for the second time. Tsunoda now 14th on the hard tyre. and Ocon in 10th on the hard. So just 2 Ferraris and Max Verstappen on the medium, as Max now 14 seconds clear of Lando Norris. And I will update you guys in a moment with how George Russell is doing. Russell is 4.7 seconds behind Hamilton and is about, 15, 16 seconds, I think it is, behind Oscar Piastri. Yeah, it's actually, more like 14, 15 seconds behind Piastri, and then still about 19 seconds behind Norris. Lando putting in some great lap times at the minute, despite being on older tyres compared to Russell. So Norris looking very good here to finish in second place, even if Lando stays out until the end. Lando, also 9 seconds clear of Leclerc in 4th. Piastri just under 4 seconds clear of Leclerc. 2 Ferraris, got to say, their pace is not too bad at the minute, but it's definitely not good enough to put up a fight for the podium. Kevin Magnussen now pits for Haas. Is now at the back, 15th, and presumably will come out on a set of hard tyres on lap 33. Only, 20 laps to go now. And, Sergio Perez that we can see there in the car. What was I going to say? The only battles really to look out for here is George Russell coming through the field. There's no other battles out there really that I can see that are really going to be of that much interest. As
maybe is Sainz getting any closer to Leclerc? I mean,
not really. He's hovering just a couple seconds behind. I think Hamilton is catching Sainz a bit, but not super quick. As Russell 0.8 of a second quicker than Hamilton on the previous lap that just showed. Russell still pushing on. Fernando Alonso is quickly catching Pierre Gasly for 8th place. And, the only other thing to look out for is the progression of the AlphaTauris, because, of course, they pitted for a second time a bit later than others. So we'll see how they do, because they were running in the top 10. And, they're going to have to do something quite special to get into the top 10 at this point, with only 20 laps to go. As we're on lap 34 out of 53. And, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri don't officially have to pit again. Of course, they will pit again, because I don't think they'll get to the end on these tyres. Max Verstappen, though, he does definitely have to pit again, because he hasn't used another compound, and he is 15 seconds clear of Lando Norris. So I think we'll want to build that gap up a bit more, so that if Lando does stay out, he doesn't have to push too hard to get back past Lando if Lando does stay out until the end. As Lewis Hamilton, with his very nice looking helmet, going through the S's. Here is Alonso very quickly catching Pierre Gasly. Russell not really quickly catching Hamilton on that occasion. Hamilton is still slowly but surely going after Carlos Sainz, as Mercedes telling Russell, current models have us under pressure, end of race. If there's any more pace in there, that would be helpful. No shit. As Gasly in 8th, saying on the screen that he's chasing Russell, but he definitely isn't. doing well, Gasly. And if Alpine do, because Alonso is going to overtake Gasly in a few moments, if Alpine finish 9th and 10th, that would be a pretty good result from this race, considering their pace this weekend. So, yeah, as Ferrari trigger at the front, the second round of pit stops, Charles Leclerc coming in for, and so is Lewis Hamilton for the final pit stop. It's a set of hard tyres, no surprise. This will make it interesting, though, between Hamilton and Sainz. Hamilton, 3-second pit stop. Pierre Gasly also pitting. So it is now Sainz 4th. Russell is now 5th. And then it is Leclerc 6th, Hamilton 7th, Alonso 8th. Then Ocon 9th, and Gasly should come out in 10th place, I think. And actually, no, Hülkenberg comes out ahead on lap 53. So, Carlos Sainz out there still on the medium in 4th, hasn't pitted yet for the second time. And everyone else on the hard tyre. Didn't see what Gasly went on to, but I assume it was the hard tyre. As we are now on lap 36. We're on board with Oscar Piastri. Does that mean he's coming into the pits? Yes, it does. The Piastri pits for McLaren. And, well, if Piastri is going to be on the podium for the first time in his career, he's going to have to pass George Russell on track. As very good pit stop, 2.6 seconds. And Piastri should come out comfortably in 5th place and ahead of Leclerc, and he does. So, it is now Sainz 3rd, Russell 4th. Carlos Sainz, interestingly, staying out. Despite Hamilton pitting sooner. And yeah, Piastri is 8.5 seconds. Now 8 seconds. Piastri behind Russell. So, about what? 17 laps to go as Pierre Gasly now passes Hülkenberg into turn 1 to get back into the top 10. 8 seconds to catch in 17 laps. That is definitely doable. Just needs, I don't know, 0.6 of a second per lap to do it. Now look at Lando Norris, who has just been told to pit. Max Verstappen has continued on. Begin lap 37. And Norris comes in. Norris will come out behind Russell, but it will be close. Only probably a couple seconds it will be separating. That was a great stint, though, by Lando. Was actually starting to go quicker than Russell, like being on older tyres. As good pit stop, 2.4 seconds. Carlos Sainz stays out. And yeah, Russell by a couple seconds goes through. So Russell now into 3rd. But surely McLaren will get at least one car onto the podium. So, again, I am surprised they've left Ferrari Carlos Sainz out there still. Don't quite know what they're doing. As Lewis Hamilton does a fastest lap of a 1:35.6. And Verstappen now told to box. Verstappen half a minute clear of Carlos Sainz in 2nd. After 37 laps. And we have had a safety car for a few laps. It shows you how much quicker Max in that Red Bull is in this race. As Lando already within a second of Russell on his outlap. Piastri as well, very quickly catching Russell. So Russell under massive threat now as Max Verstappen pits on lap 38, and it will be a set of hard compound tyres. to take
Mercedes booking the pit stop already.
As Verstappen, 2.6 second stop as Perez sat in his car there in the garage watching the screen. And yeah, Max on the hard tyre now, and of course will cruise home for the next 15 laps to win in Japan. As there you go, down the inside into turn 1, Lando Norris is up to third, and it will be eventually second once Carlos Sainz does pit again. And Oscar Piastri now 5 seconds behind Russell. Surely Piastri will get that move done in the next 5 laps, 6 laps or so. But with 15 laps to go, it is Verstappen in the lead, Sainz second, Norris third. Sainz is now told to pit. Russell fourth, Piastri fifth, Leclerc sixth, Hamilton seventh, Alonso eighth, Ocon ninth, Gasly 10th. As Nico Hülkenberg in 11th now pits. So that means it is Liam Lawson 11th, Yuki Tsunoda in 12th, Zhou Guanyu in 13th, and the 2 Haas's at the back now of Hülkenberg and Magnussen. And Hülkenberg coming out a set of mediums, so maybe he'll be able to take the fastest lap away from Lewis Hamilton. So here comes Carlos Sainz into the pit lane now. And, well, he's going to have fresher tyres than Hamilton for these last 13, 14 laps. But will that be enough to get back past Lewis Hamilton? Hamilton definitely will come out ahead of Carlos. As into the box he comes. And onto hard tyres he goes onto. And Carlos Sainz will come out about 3 seconds or 2 seconds, something like that, clear of Fernando Alonso. Carlos Sainz now in 7th, but with work to do if he's to climb up from that position. So, yeah, only car now on mediums is Nico Hülkenberg. Everyone else still in the race is on the hard tyre, as looks like they're going to release Sergio Perez from his garage to serve that penalty.
About 20 minutes later.
Carlos Sainz, by the way, is 7 seconds behind Hamilton. So if he catches Hamilton by 3/4 of a second per lap, it's doable getting back past ahead of Hamilton. Oh, what a fastest lap that is by Max Verstappen, a 1:34.1, 1.4 seconds quicker than Hamilton's fastest lap just a moment ago. As we are now on lap 40 out of 53. And yeah, I'd be surprised if anyone took the fastest lap now. As so George Russell in 3rd, but I fear for Russell it won't be for long, as Oscar Piastri is now just 1 second behind, and surely will overtake Russell for 3rd, as Russell really is heading for nothing here, because he's got Piastri, Leclerc, Hamilton, and even at this rate, you'll have Sainz and even Alonso very quickly catching. So, yeah, he's been hung out to dry, I guess you could say. But, I mean, Mercedes have not been very good this weekend, so there's nothing else really they can do. As Piastri closing in into Spoon. Get a good run as they now begin the climb towards 130R on lap 41, Max Verstappen 15 seconds clear of Lando Norris, who is second. And Piastri closing up a lot into the braking zone of the final chicane. Got to get the move done now, Piastri, really, because Leclerc's only 2.3 seconds behind. Russell, though, pulls away quite a bit on the exit and defends to the middle. Piastri just not close enough in the end to be able to overtake. And like I said, he's got to get this move done soon because Leclerc and Hamilton will be coming back up behind him. Perez did get released back onto the track, but has now been told to box. And yeah, surely Piastri on this lap, well, not maybe on this lap, but the next time they come round to the pit straight, I'm sure he'll get the move done. Because Russell is going to be struggling quite a bit on these tyres. Now, in the run to spoon, Carlos Sainz now 5.7 seconds behind Hamilton, so Carlos is catching, and Leclerc closing the gap to Piastri whilst he's still behind Russell, as we're on lap 42 out of 53 here at Suzuka. And Piastri pulls to the outside on the entry to the chicane and is really just setting the move up now. Can he get the good exit, though? It's better than what he got before, but it's still going to be a tough move into turn one. Here we go. Piastri, DRS wide open, slipstream. Russell defends to the inside and round the outside. Oscar Piastri goes and he's up to third. Brilliant. And surely will finish on the podium for the first time in his Formula One career. As now Charles Leclerc right behind Russell in the battle for fourth place. Yeah, Piastri got such a great run through 130R. Was still a tricky move into turn one. Yeah, brilliant. Round the outside of Russell. Very confident to be able to do that. Such high speed. Yeah, great one. As he now pulls away. Leclerc closing on Russell. It's not been necessarily near the greatest race for Piastri, but I mean, securing a podium, that's what the aim was, and he's heading for it. So yeah, great race for him. As hold on, is he there? No, not at the moment. So he must have just gone to the toilet quickly. As now on lap 43, Leclerc closing on Russell. And into turn one, Leclerc not close enough to overtake. Leclerc, I've got to say, though, is pretty quick on this hard compound tyre. Piastri's not that far ahead, so if Leclerc can pass Russell very soon, you never know. He could put up a fight for third, but the longer Russell stays ahead, then that will allow Piastri to stretch his legs. But just to let you guys know as well, as it is, of course, lap, 43. Very soon, it'll be lap 44. Leclerc closes up Russell on the exit of the hairpin. What was I going to say? Yeah, make sure to stick around until after the race, because I will be doing a brief reaction to the race as well. Of course, I will be live tomorrow night at 8 PM UK time for a weekend review, so make sure to come along to that as well to go through some of the big talking points from this weekend. as Leclerc closing on Russell into the final chicane. And DRS open on lap 44. Will be able to go for the move. Russell defends to the middle and keeps him at bay. Good defense from Russell. Leclerc, surprisingly, not close enough to be able to actually get the move done. In a battle just behind this, though, Carlos Sainz now 3.5 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton. As McLaren telling Piastri, if there was a safety car, we could fit soft tyres, but you'd give up 3 positions. Feedback. And Oscar saying, yeah, I'd pit. Obviously, they have to forecast for everything possible in a race. But they just want to know, if there is a safety car now, would Oscar be up for pitting? Clearly would. As Leclerc closing again into Spoon. Now, lap 45, Max Verstappen almost 17 seconds clear of Lando Norris. And, yeah, Leclerc still looking possibly for a move. They come through the final chicane now. How's Leclerc's exit? It's okay. Looks a bit better than last time. As they come down into turn 1, will Leclerc get the move done this time for the Ferrari? Not really gaining that much in a straight line. As Leclerc round the outside. As brilliant side-by-side racing. And Leclerc gets up to 4th place. That was some good racing there between the two. Leclerc up to 4th as, yeah, behind Carlos Sainz, continuing to close on Hamilton. Ib, are you back with us? No, it appears not. Maybe he may have even fallen asleep, which would be sad, because obviously he's going to miss out on an Australian on the podium. If that's the case. As Leclerc, the replay of him. And yeah, brilliant move. He wasn't actually alongside properly in turn 1, but just carried so much momentum around the outside of turn 2. Yeah, that was a superb move. As it is lap 46. Max Verstappen, they're just showing the live Drivers' Championship. And Max Verstappen, as it stands, he's scoring 26 points, which means he will have a 177 point lead in the championship. And as long as Max, I think, scores like 4 or 5 points in Qatar, as it stands, then Max will be your 3-time world champion. As it stands, guys, Red Bull are heading for a 6th Constructors' World Championship. As Verstappen about to begin lap 47. Here's Lewis Hamilton now, right behind Russell. Really, Russell needs to be letting Hamilton go because Carlos Sainz is quickly catching behind. So Mercedes need to engineer this move if they can for Hamilton, because there's no point in the team holding themselves up. So through 130R, Hamilton not actually that close on this occasion. Oh, Leclerc and Russell noted for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. I wonder, did Leclerc go over all, have all 4 tyres over the white line? Didn't look like it. It looked fine to me. But maybe he did just about, as Mercedes telling Hamilton, just make sure you give each other plenty of room. As Pierre Gasly overtakes Esteban Ocon for 9th. As Alpine are heading for 3 World Championship points. But Hamilton, the longer he stays behind Russell, the more he's giving Carlos Sainz behind a chance to not just beat Hamilton, but finish up in 5th place. Hamilton tries to get a good exit from the hairpin, and he does get a good exit, but it's not a good enough exit to have a look at the back of Russell, as Sainz now within a second of Hamilton. So you've got to get it done on this occasion as Hamilton, or else he is in trouble from the Ferrari behind. As Hamilton is close into the chicane and gets a better run through the first part of the chicane, but what about on the exit? It's not great. It is not great. What will he do now into turn 1? And he's closing, but he's not closing enough. Russell will stay ahead. This is just going to make Carlos Sainz lick his lips even more, knowing that he's got 2 Mercedes cars on toast. As Hamilton's saying, we're going to lose both these positions. And yeah, probably at this rate. I've got to say, though, considering the strategy that Russell has been on, he's done pretty well. As Russell, pace has been as good as really you could expect. As Hamilton moving around a lot in Degner too. Will Sainz send it at the hairpin? Not quite. He tries to get a better exit, and he does get a pretty good exit. As Max Verstappen now begins lap 49. 5 full laps remaining in Japan. And Hamilton, not a great exit from Spoon. And Sainz, I've got to be honest, looks like he's more likely to pass Hamilton than Hamilton is to pass Russell. So this is not looking great for Lewis Hamilton. They just come through the chicane. And is Hamilton close enough to look at Russell? No, he really is not. He will get close into turn 1, but I don't think he'll be close enough. And no, Russell lets him go. I did just see Mercedes talk to Russell on the radio. I'm wondering, did they tell Russell to let Hamilton through? Which, really, from a team perspective, is the smart decision if they want to finish in the top 5. So how quickly will George Russell be overtaken by Sainz? Will he be overtaken by Carlos Sainz? Let's see, as Hamilton very quickly now pulling away. Now Sainz tries to get a better exit. And he does get a good exit. And of course, that Ferrari pretty quick in a straight line as they're coming now to Spoon. Where will Carlos go? Takes the outside line. And nothing doing around there. Needs to try and get a better exit from the exit of Spoon. And he gets a good exit and surely now is going to overtake Russell in a few corners' time. He's got a very good run through 130R. And Sainz positions his car around the outside for the chicane. Gets the switch back just about. Russell's the rear end of his car all over the place. And Carlos Sainz surely will overtake George Russell. Yes, he does. Carlos Sainz up the inside and up to 6th. And now Carlos just a second behind Lewis Hamilton, as we've got nearly 3 laps, about 3.5 laps now to go. So time is against him if he's going to finish on the not the podium, if he's going to finish in 5th. Even though Russell had DRS as well, still proved too much for Russell to keep Carlos at bay, as Hamilton quicker through sector 1 as we begin lap 51. And we've got 3 full laps to go here in Japan. As, by the way, if Nib is asleep, then yeah, I think we'll just leave him. I mean, he did say he's been awake pretty much for 24 hours, so he is probably absolutely fucked. Hopefully he's okay. As Carlos saying on the radio, they're using my trick against me. I think that's the reason Russell got DRS then the lap before is, yeah, because Lewis deliberately backed off to let Russell get the DRS. And yeah, Carlos saying, hey, that's plagiarism. Carlos through the S's, not close enough to be able to to get close enough really to be thinking about DRS later on this lap. Out front, by the way, Max Verstappen, 19 seconds clear of Lando Norris. Oscar Piastri, nearly 16 seconds behind Norris. As Carlos Sainz, now into Spoon, is within a second of Lewis Hamilton. And again, we know the Ferrari is quicker in a straight line. So as long as he's in that slipstream, he will be pulled along. As he's got, well, 2 more chances as Sainz at overtaking Hamilton for 5th. As into the chicane, he is a lot closer now and will definitely get the DRS assistance to try and move up a position. By the way, back down the order, Liam Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda separated by a second over 11th place. I'll keep an eye on that battle as we enter the final lap and a half of racing in Japan. Hamilton and Sainz just coming through the S's now. Can Carlos keep close enough? This occasion, he can. Definitely closer through here than he was the lap before. Just 9/10 of a second between the two as they now come to the hairpin. Definitely second half of the lap. Ferrari a lot quicker than Mercedes. As we now begin the final lap, as the AlphaTauri there of Yuki... Is it Yuki Tsunoda? No, it's Liam Lawson. Let's through Max Verstappen, who is now just, 10 or 11 corners away from winning the Japanese Grand Prix and winning Red Bull, the Constructors' World Championship. Max now through the 2 Degners. I'll let you know what's going on with Hamilton and Sainz, but at the moment, doesn't look like Sainz is going to be able to overtake, just not close enough, I'm afraid. That's Max Verstappen. Now, on the run to Spoon. Man, as they show on screen, with already 47 race wins to his name, heading for yet another. His birthday is, I think, on next Saturday, and this is a brilliant birthday present. A win around one of the best racetracks in the world, and it will be Max Verstappen's second win at Suzuka, second win in a row, and here he comes. Max Verstappen is back on top and wins in Japan, and Red Bull are the Constructors' World Champions as they go crazy in the garage, and they fully deserve it. They have been by far the best team in 2023. Here comes Lando Norris. Second, yet again, another podium for Norris in 2023. That is Lando's fourth podium, I think, of the season. And here comes Oscar Piastri to complete a double podium for McLaren. And Oscar Piastri on the podium for the first time in his Formula One career. Brilliant from him. Leclerc will finish in fourth for Ferrari. Lewis Hamilton will finish in fifth, with Sainz in sixth. George Russell will come home seventh, with Alonso eighth, Gasly ninth, Ocon 10th, and then the rest of the field finishing the race but not in the points. You've got Lawson 11th, Tsunoda 12th, Zhou 13th, Hulkenberg 14th, Kevin Magnussen 15th, and not finishing the race, unfortunately, Albon, Sargent, Stroll, Perez, and Bottas. But there you go, guys. Officially, Red Bull 2023 Formula One Constructors Champions. And like I said, they fully deserve it. And yeah, that was a fantastic win from Verstappen. Looked like it was never in doubt, really, from the first lap of the weekend on Friday. So there you go. Race is now over, guys. So let's now get into the race reaction. And the race reaction is not going to be for massively long. It's going to be probably for the next half an hour. So yeah, let's get into it. Before though we properly get into things, let me set up a poll in the chat asking who is your driver of the day for the 2023 Japanese Grand Prix. And your options for driver of the day are Verstappen, Norris, and the other two options will be Gasly and Ocon, who of course made progress from outside the top 10 to finish 9th and 10th for Alpine. There you go. Let me know in that poll who is your driver of the day. Nib, are you there? No. Like I said, I hope he's okay. Hope he hasn't had something happen, but I just assume he's fallen asleep. Anyway, yeah, let me know, guys, in the chat your thoughts as to the race. My driver of the day is Max Verstappen, without a doubt. And by far the driver of the weekend, proving once again why he is on another planet compared to the rest of the field. And out of 10, what would I give this race? Probably a 6.5. It was a very good race for the first 20 laps, 25 laps, but after that it was a bit less exciting. So yeah, probably a 6.5, maybe a 7. You could argue at a push. It was a decent race. There you go, Max posing with the banner. Constructors Champions, Red Bull Racing. And yeah, like I said earlier, they thoroughly deserve it. Let me just see if there's anything on Twitter I can find quickly. And no, can't find anything at the moment in terms of new news to bring you guys. But again, big shout out to Oscar Piastri on the podium for the first time in his career. Thoroughly deserved. Should have probably had it a few races ago at Silverstone, and thankfully has got it now as McLaren comfortably the second best team this weekend. And really going forward, they should be the second best team for the rest of the year, except for the odd race. Yeah, Red Bull and McLaren, the two best teams, like it was when I started watching Formula 1 12 years ago. Anyway, let's come to you guys in the chat, or actually not quite yet, because let me just briefly go through the teams and get into my thoughts as to how they all did. Red Bull, again, big congratulations to them. Fantastic season. Thoroughly deserved the Constructors' title. Max Verstappen, great weekend on another level and thoroughly deserving to win this race. So, yeah, fantastic there for the team. Perez, absolutely terrible, putting in an absolute stinker of a performance, but yeah, at least Red Bull have won the championship. Mercedes, 5th and 7th. Realistically, it was the best they were going to get, considering Perez, retired from the race. So, yeah, I can't really complain. They just weren't that quick this weekend. They weren't on the same level as Red Bull, McLaren, or Ferrari. So, yeah, poor weekend and definitely things to improve on going forward for the final 6 races if Mercedes are going to finish second in the championship. 4th and 6th for Ferrari. That's the best really they could have got. They didn't have the pace to fight McLaren for the podium. And yeah, they score 20 points from this race, which is 4 points better than Mercedes. So they're only 20 points now behind Mercedes going into the final 6 races. Let me know in the chat, guys. Can Ferrari finish second in the championship? We'll see. Aston Martin, pretty, bang average, really. Alonso finishing 8th. Aston Martin had, compared to the front few teams, no pace at all, and were basically fighting Alpine today. But credit to Alonso for getting the maximum points. Sad that they had a car retire, but yeah, Aston Martin very much... sorry. Aston Martin now very much under pressure for 4th place in the championship from McLaren. Double podium. Great performance this weekend by both drivers. And McLaren, yes, scoring 33 points. Fernando Alonso scoring 4 points. So that is a gain of 29 points. And McLaren 49 points behind Aston Martin. And if they keep up this level of performance, McLaren will finish 4th in the championship. Great weekend. Good to see the upgrade they brought last week in Singapore is still working to a degree. Maybe not as much as they really hoped. But yeah, it is really great to see McLaren in this type of position. And they are really motoring on in Formula 1, no pun intended. And hopefully keep this up for the rest of 2023. Alpine, good result, 9th and 10th. It was the best they could have got, really. So, yeah, great result. Good drive from both drivers. Good defense at times from Esteban Ocon. And, yeah, good race overall for the team. Williams, both cars retiring. I think Albon said the car was undrivable at one point. Yeah, not quite sure what happened there. But, yeah, very disappointing race. Clearly, the issues for Williams was down to the damage suffered with a couple incidents, either on lap 1 or later on. But yeah, Williams, double retirement, disappointing weekend where they should have scored, really, at least a couple points. Haas F1, last of all, pretty terrible. Alfa Romeo, I mean, Bottas retired and had a bit of a disaster at the start through no fault of his own. Zhou Guan Yu finished in 13th, but was nowhere near finishing in the points. So yeah, terrible for Alfa Romeo. And AlphaTauri, 11th and 12th, not too bad, but I am surprised they finished so far behind Alpine. They just weren't really that quick today, unfortunately. But hey, at least they've had a decent weekend, even though they didn't score any points. So there you go, guys. That's my initial reaction. I will be live tomorrow night at 8 PM UK time for a weekend review, and I'll be getting into particular talking points. So, yeah, we'll be doing that tomorrow night. Just want to say quickly, we are on 91 likes. If you haven't hit the like button yet, make sure to do so. Let's try and get up to 100 plus likes if we can by the end of this stream. That'd be great if we could do that. Well done, Chazza, for displaying enthusiasm at such an early race, mate. Yeah. Astro Stevo says, it's so great to see McLaren doing so well again. Double podium for them today is superb, especially when you consider how bad they were at the start of the year. Alonso carrying the whole team. This Blue Flag Alpha Stroll is useless. And what other comments have we got? Kiefer says, I'm still laughing the FIA let Perez serve his penalty. As yeah, we're on 98 likes now. Let's try and get a couple more to get that 100 like mark. That'd be great if we could. Of course, it does help the channel and the algorithm, and it helps me in terms of, you know, you guys showing me that you do like the content, literally. So, yeah. And yeah, we're now on 99 likes. Find some other comments here. If I can. Cheers, Chazza, says Astro Stevo. There you go, 100 likes. Thank you guys so much for the likes. Very much appreciated. McLaren from Race says, you saved me from falling asleep. It wasn't that bad. Maybe towards the second half of the race it was. But yeah, I didn't think it was that bad. To be honest. Astro Evo saying, love the content, Jazza. Cheers. No problem. Liam still did well today. Today, says Blue Flag Alpha. Yeah, Liam Lawson had a brilliant race. Brilliant overtake on Sonoda at Degner 1. And for most of the race was quicker than Sonoda. So yeah, massive credit to him. And clearly has proven that he is good enough for Formula 1. It's just a matter of him being on the grid permanently. We will see when Lawson can possibly get a permanent seat. Hopefully, at worst, he'll have to wait until 2025. Super Kev says, Chaz is a new Brundle. Cheers for that. Quite a compliment. Say Regara says, Hamilton's only 33 points behind Perez in the driver's title, by the way. Yeah, Perez still hasn't quite secured second in the championship, which is quite amazing to say, given how good Red Bull have been. John Hawkins says, missed almost all of this too early Sunday morning. Hello, McLaren. Brett says, well, I would watch the rest of the stream, but it's late. So good night, all. Thanks, mate. And hopefully we'll see you again for the next one. And, well, I think, guys, given how long I've been live for, nearly 4 hours, I think I will bring the stream to a close, because obviously viewership's dropped off, and yeah, I think a lot of people are now keen to get on, either going to sleep or just get on with their day. Yeah, thank you guys so much for coming along for the streams this weekend. Of course, I will be live tomorrow, as you can see here, live tomorrow night for the weekend review for the Japanese Grand Prix, Monday, 25th of September, which of course is tomorrow at live at 8 PM UK time. And then the next live stream after that will be next Sunday at 3 PM UK time. I will be live for a stream. I just don't know what the topic is yet. So yeah, we will, or I will decide on that probably a couple days beforehand and let you guys know the morning of that stream. And then, of course, a week after that, it will be the Qatar Grand Prix as we return to the Lusail International Circuit. But before I go, let's finish up the poll in the chat, where I asked you guys, who is driver of the day for the Japanese Grand Prix? 47 votes, and with 57% of the vote, you guys have voted for Max Verstappen as your driver of the day. I fully agree. Lando Norris second, then Gasly third, and Ocon fourth. And thank you, Paulie, by the way, for saying great show. Thank you. Yeah, that's my next 2 pieces of content coming. Hopefully you guys can come along for that. Before I go, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. If you haven't already, before I go, smash the like button. It does help the channel, of course, in the algorithm. And if you want to keep up to date with the channel, make sure if you have Twitter to follow me on Twitter. It's ChazzaHD on Twitter, or at ChazHD5. And also, link below to the Discord server. Great place that is for notifications of my videos and streams. But guys, until my stream tomorrow night at 8 PM UK time to go through some of the talking points from this race weekend, and until the next Grand Prix in Qatar in 2 weeks' time, it has been me, ChazzaHD. Goodbye.